Alrighty, greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Saturday afternoon live stream for Week 3 of the 2025 fantasy football season. Over the course of the next hour, we're talking all things fantasy football related. So, of course, if you have yourself a question, whether it is a starter sit question going into this week, ask away. But if in fact you're going to send in a question, whether it is the live chat, whether it is a super chat, make sure you include your scoring format. Any sort of context that may kind of give me more information that'll make the decision easier going into the week. So whether it is a tight end premium, a super flex, whether it is a trade question, besides the format, the context of your team is very much so vital, unless we just want to talk about trades within a specific vacuum. All of that available. Again, talking all things fantasy football. I hope you guys are having a great weekend thus far on this wonderful Saturday. Hopefully tomorrow's games are going to provide a lot of fantasy upside, and hopefully a lot of the players that have not played up to par or going to have their breakout or bounce back performances this week. Now, quickly before I begin, I do want to mention a couple players that, again, going into this week are dealing with injuries that certainly maybe you are not aware of, but I want everyone to be aware of this, whether you are watching this live and or after this has already been posted on the channel. So a couple of names in regards to injuries going into this week that we obviously are trying to pay attention to. First and foremost, the number one cornerback of the Arizona Cardinals, Will Johnson, is doubtful to play. That is huge, especially considering, again, right now, Juwan Jennings of the San Francisco 49ers did not practice a single time all week long. He is questionable to play. In the event in which he does not play, this makes a huge potential uptick for my boy, Ricky Pearsall. Yes, this is Ricky Pearsall propaganda of sorts. Anyway, continuing on, AJ Terrell, the number one cornerback of the Atlanta Falcons, is expected to be out. He's already been designated out. That means Tedero McMillan going into this weekend should be a fantastic play. Other players that are out going into this weekend, we have Cam Taylor-Britt, one of the primary cornerbacks of the Cincinnati Bengals. Again, that helps the potential of Justin Jefferson, under the assumption that, of course, Carson Wentz can stay healthy. Two of the starting offensive linemen for the Minnesota Vikings are going to be out. Obviously, the backup to their left tackle and their starting center, both out. So we'll see how that transpires and whether or not they can keep Carson Wentz protected. In regards to some of these other games, specifically the Chicago Bears taking on the Dallas Cowboys, this is expected to be a shootout. Now, the defenses and secondaries are dealing with a lot of injuries. We already know that Jalen Johnson, the primary number one corner of the Bears, is probably out for the remainder of the season. Kyler Gordon's going to miss another game. Jalen Jones is going to miss another game. TJ Edwards, one of their starting linebackers, is going to be out. But it's not only the defense of the Chicago Bears is dealing with injuries. Also, the Dallas Cowboys, Deron Bland for another consecutive week is going to be out. Additionally, Trayvon Diggs is questionable despite having limited practices all week. Earlier today was given a questionable designation as they're not certain as to whether or not he'll be able to play this weekend. So if the two top cornerbacks of the Dallas Cowboys are out, of course, we're continuing to fire up our Chicago Bears, and maybe this gives you a little bit more of a boost in the direction of a DJ Moore. Obviously, we know that we're playing our Rome Odunze's, our Caleb Johnson. That's not the right player. Caleb Williams going into this week. In regards to any other injuries that I've come about in the most recent, Christian Gonzalez, another cornerback that is out. Again, there's a lot of cornerbacks that are missing this week, but it certainly does give value, right? When we have the New England Patriots secondary that have struggled as much as they have, it is huge to potentially see the upside that some of these wide receivers have found against them. DK Metcalf's going to hopefully be the next one on his way to having a big performance here. Obviously, his first two performances as a Pittsburgh Steelers, not as plentiful as we would have expected, but it takes a little bit of time to build that rapport. In regards to, speaking of the Pittsburgh Steelers, their secondary dealing with a bunch of injuries. Joey Porter Jr. expected to miss another game. Alex Highsmith out for a considerable amount of time, one of the primary pass rushers. Deshaun Elliott's going to miss time, one of their starting safeties. Matt Sharping, I believe I think that's the starting center. He's going to be out for a considerable amount of time. And then, of course, we get to one of the final players that we wanted to mention. The thumbnail of today's episode is Kenneth Walker, none other than because Zach Charbonnet, currently doubtful going into this week, did not practice a single time. Again, I'd like to just mention this first and foremost. I have never seen a player that has been given the doubtful designation play in the last couple seasons. Very unlikely that it takes place. So just expect for Kenneth Walker to have the full workload of opportunity up against this Saints defense. All right. Now with that all covered, again, we will talk about a lot of these situations and potentially a lot of these players, but I wanted to make sure everyone is, made known of these injuries going into this week. Somebody had asked, are we starting DeAndre Swift? I understand that he was popped up on the injury report in regards to the potential of, him dealing with a little bit of a quad injury. That is a little bit of a how do I explain this? It's just more of a precautionary measure that they just listed him on the injury report because he was limited in his participation, but it's not something that I'm worried about in regards to his participation this week. I expect him to play. You could pick up Kyle Monangai if you'd like in order to kind of handcuff him there, but I don't think that this quad injury is something of a serious nature to where we're worrying about his status going into the game or even after the game. Okay, guys. So outside of that, before we get into answering many of these questions that many of you guys have sent in already, again, I'll remind you, if you guys are going to send in a question, please make sure you attach it to your super chat sent in. If you are putting it in the live chat, the likelihood of me being able to answer that question quickly and swiftly goes down drastically, and it really throws a kind of wrench into the cogwheels of the live stream. So if you guys can, make sure you include your question within that super. Outside of that, the final thing I wanted to mention before we get into today's live stream, again, if you guys want my Sunday morning rankings tomorrow, and again, every single Sunday morning for the remainder of the season, and you don't want to ask these questions and all this kind of jazz and just want to have those rankings sent from my email directly to yours, of course, you guys can check out Betr. I've mentioned it in the past, besides making plays, which I'll go ahead and conduct over the course of today's live stream. I'll also be going ahead and sending rankings for those of you who sign up using code Andrew, make that first time deposit minimum of 10, and make that first time play minimum of $1 within a real cash play. Again, all you have to do is sign up using the link down below. Make sure you're eligible via the map to the right side of the screen based on your current location, and you're good to go. And of course, new users get a free $10 when they sign up using code Andrew. So thank you very much for all the support. Okay, let's begin with the questions. I'm going to go through them quickly because I know there's a lot, and I want to try to get to as many of you as possible. We begin with Ray C, who sends in a question. Ray, thank you very much. Says, PPR, do I flex Bill or Pacheco? I would prefer to play Bill. Again, Pacheco is somebody that I believe, look, with an incredible matchup, fantastic. I think he could service as an RB3 flexible option if you're in a pinch. But am I excited about playing him? No, because I could still get burnt. There's still a high likelihood of that taking place. I would rather lean in the direction of Bill, as they have Marcus Mariota at quarterback, Austin Eckler out. They should lean upon the run game, despite the fact that it is a difficult matchup against the Raiders. Bill should be a fantastic play this week as like a low-end RB2, high-end RB3 in this capacity. And hopefully, within this given week, he is exposed to a little bit more receiving utilization than he has already thus far this season, with Austin Eckler out and Jeremy McNichols, who would be the next man up within that conversation of receiving workload out of this backfield, dealing with his own injury himself. So again, it should expose him to more opportunity share within this backfield. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Ray. Appreciate it. All right, Speak Your Piece sends in a question. Says, hey, Andrew, who should I start in the flex, Etienne or London? I would prefer to play London. I think regardless of scoring format, I think London is the preferred. Taking on the Carolina Panthers is as good of a matchup as we could possibly ask for. Like I mentioned earlier this week, London against the Carolina Panthers, week 18 of last season with Michael Penix at quarterback, went for 35.7 half PPR fantasy points. Again, I would expect London and his week 2 performance against the Minnesota Vikings to be the outlier. He is typically and has always been, especially considering what we saw last season with good quarterback play, a consistent enough option to where we can blindly start him with confidence. Now, benching Etienne is difficult considering how well he has played, but if we're playing in a full PPR format, I'm all in on Drake London this week. Thank you, Speak Your Piece. I appreciate that. Rogo sends in a question. Rogo, what's up, man? Says, sup, Brody? Canceled Sutton, waiver wire. I'd be facing Bipocalypse. Okay, I got Kirk for free instead. Okay, understood. Says my team consists of Penix, Jacoby Myers, Adunze, Gibbs, Pacheco, Fannin, Austin, Ryland. We have Tampa Bay's defense. My bench consisting of McConkey. Really, we're benching McConkey. Okay. Swift, Shaheed, Benson, Denver, Daniels, Kittle. Success or switch up? I mean, look, in terms of going into this weekend, based on what you have on roster, I would much rather play a McConkey instead of a Calvin Austin 10 times out of 10. I don't think I'm ever sitting in a position to where I'm feeling comfortable with that. Additionally, I think I'd rather play Swift over Pacheco. Again, I like Pacheco, guys. I mentioned him as a hidden gem yesterday because of the matchup, but am I so confident to where I'm playing him ahead of actual viable players that are getting not only opportunity shares that are similar to his, but greater than his, and they are more efficient? I think I'd rather just swap in that Swift for the Pacheco and the McConkey for the Austin, the Calvin Austin play there. And at that point, I'd feel very confident with the team going into this week. Thank you, Rogo. I appreciate it, my man, as always. All right. Work for what you want sends in a question. Thank you very much. Says traded Chase Buka, as in Egbuka, Montgomery for Flowers, Ladd, and Chase Brown. Okay. I mean, as a whole, look, I think that Chase Brown and Jamar Chase are both going to be relevant regardless of the absence of Joe Burrow. Again, if we travel back to 2023, in the final 6 games of the season, all parties were relevant. And even though, yes, Jamar Chase had himself a lesser opportunity shares than he typically would, based on what we witnessed this most recent week against the Jacksonville Jaguars, where when, Jake Browning came into the game, he targeted within 2.5 quarters of play Jamar Chase 11 times. It gives me enough confidence to where I am still trusting in that overall kind of potential for success remainder of the season. But in regards to the players that you are gaining with Flowers, Ladd, and Chase Brown, I think this is an equal trade, and I'm very happy for the side in which you got. I think if you're in desperate need of that wide receiver upgrade in terms of depth and expansion of that, I think this is a great trade for you. Thank you. Nom Nom sends in a question, says, questions in the chat. I'm in a 10-team PPR. All right, Nom Nom, if you could do me a favor, I'm going to write your name down real quick. Do me a favor and retype your question into the live chat because I'd assume that it's probably not available there anymore, considering when you sent that in. Thank you. Catacomb Kid, what's up, my man? Long time no see, Catacomb. Hope you're doing well. Says, would you drop Fannin, Juwan Johnson, or Njoku to stash Christian Kirk? Okay, look, I don't think you should be rostering 3 tight ends. So Juwan Johnson, obviously, of the bunch that you have, is the most relevant for fantasy purposes. He nearly plays 100% of the offensive snaps. He doesn't come off of the field. He is getting just as many number 1 reads within this offense as Chris Olave. He's gotten himself 10 targets per game on average this season. So Juwan Johnson, clear and away, is your number 1. Now, as for deciding between Fannin and Njoku, that's up to you. I prefer to probably lean in the direction of a Fannin because of, again, his opportunity share is pretty much within that slot receiving role of this offense. And additionally, they're running a lot of 12 and 13 personnel. So he's really never coming off of the field. And it looks like they want to utilize him in more and more expansive kind of opportunities going forward. And as he improves as a player in his rookie year, he's going to take a lot of the overall workload share from Njoku, not only as a slot, but also as an inline tight end eventually, because he is a pretty solid blocker. So if you wanted to, I think I'd swap out Njoku for Christian Kirk in this circumstance, just to preemptively get ahead of it. And again, if you wanted to just hold all 3 tight ends just to make sure Fannin and Njoku isn't more of like a first 2 weeks dud situation for Njoku, and maybe he breaks out this week, I'm okay with that. But ultimately, Juwan Johnson's kind of going to be your guy going forward for this situation. Thank you. Gio Ortiz. Gio, hope you're doing well. Says, I'm in a Superflex PPR. Do I choose 2 between Mariota, Egbuka, and then we have AJ and Pearsall? Okay, so Mariota, clear and away, is a start. If I was to give you guys an understanding as to how highly I have Marcus Mariota ranked, specifically going into this week, when I've changed around my rankings, I have him at around, okay, so if we eliminate Josh Allen from the top tier of the conversation, right, because he's obviously performed on Thursday, he's played, he's out of the overall equation, I would have Marcus Mariota as a remaining top 12 quarterback going into tomorrow. So if in fact you are missing Jaden Daniels going into this weekend, I truly do believe that Marcus Mariota should be picked up and should be started. So in your situation here, Gio, you should absolutely play him. Now, as far as AJ Brown, Emeka Egbuka, and Ricky Pearsall, the only time I would play Pearsall ahead of the group would be if Juwan Jennings is inactive tomorrow. Now, I want to go ahead and pull up the NFL schedule for tomorrow's games, and let's just see when all these teams are playing, just so that we have an understanding as to when you can make that decision exactly. So considering the 49ers don't play until 1:25 p.m. PST tomorrow, they play in the afternoon window, and the Eagles are playing in the morning slate 10 a.m. PST. So the first games of the day include the Rams taking on the Eagles in Philly. I would suggest that you play Mariota alongside of AJ Brown this week. Thank you, Gio. All right, let me go ahead. Let me travel to the live chat here and see if Nom Nom sent in the question real quick, and then we can go ahead and continue on. Nom Nom says, unpopular take, but with a tough matchup, I have Saquon on the bench. Yeah, nope. We're gonna stop you there, brother. We're gonna stop you there. That is not. Oh my God, it's not a tough matchup. It's not a tough matchup. Listen, the Rams have played against Nick Chubb and Tony Pollard. They haven't taken on an actual good offensive line yet. Okay, but anyway, you said unpopular take, and you are aware of that. Let's just see what your entire statement was here. It says, I have Saquon on the bench and currently have Irving slotted and Javonte in the flex. I think he'll get 20 plus this week. I think Javonte Williams, I think he's set, especially with the value that he's presenting in the offense in which he is playing within, and the way that they are scoring, and the lack of defensive starters that the Bears are going to have. I think, you're in a pretty solid position with Javonte there. And as for Irving, they're missing 3 of their starting offensive linemen this week. It's going to be a little bit of a tougher situation. If I was in your spot there, you know what I would do. Saquon has to be there. There's no reality. I think I've said this before in the past, and I'll kind of reiterate. It is against my religion to play Saquon, to not play Saquon. There's no reason I would ever leave him on my bench. At that point, it just seems like it's a cardinal sin to leave him on the bench. All right, continuing on. We had a question that came in from Alex Songgrass. Alex, thank you very much. Says, in a non-PPR, start 2. We have Jacobs, K9, and Mason. All right, cool. So, you're asking who to start. Okay, got it. Look, I think those are three incredible options. The expectation is that Zach Charbonnet is not going to play. And when Zach Charbonnet is out, there's just going to be so much opportunity share for Kenneth Walker to probably get 20 touches within the matchup against the New Orleans Saints that he has to play. Additionally, I think Josh Jacobs has done enough in his career to prove, hey, you know what? I'm a weekly start no matter what. I've gone 10 consecutive games with one rushing touchdown minimum. I've gone 10 consecutive games with 17 touches minimum. And we play against the Cleveland Browns. So K9 and Jacobs are your guys. In a standard league, I think Mason is probably right on their ass hairs, like to the point to where he should be considered, but considering you don't have the option because you only could start two, those are the two guys I suggest. Moving on to your next question. This is in a standard league. Do I start Tedero McMillan, Jacoby Myers, DJ Moore, or Cortland Sutton? If I got to start one of them, I'm playing, Tedero McMillan, especially in a standard league, considering, again, AJ Terrell, the number one cornerback of this Atlanta Falcons defense, is out. It does lean me in that direction, especially considering we are going to anticipate a negative game script for the entirety of that upcoming matchup. Now, as for the alternative options that you may have available to you, I'd probably look towards DJ Moore or Sutton as the next best options because in a standard league, I'm looking for yardage, big plays, and touchdowns. I think Myers, again, is going to be more of a reception-dependent player, and that is what his value is pretty much revolving around. So Ted McMillan would be number one. I'd probably end up going with, most likely, considering all the injuries with that secondary, the Cowboys, probably DJ Moore 2, Sutton 3, Myers 4 in a standard scoring format, 0 points per reception. As for your next question, it says Fannin or Henry. I could justify the idea of playing Henry there. I don't mind it because I do think he has more touchdown upside, as I don't believe that we're going to see the Cleveland Browns scoring many, if not any, touchdowns this week. So if we lean in that direction of just purely going after the standard format, Henry would be the play. Again, that's very different than what my normal analysis would be in regards to a half or full PPR. I would go in the opposite direction, but you know that, Alex. As for your next question, it says PPR trade, Debo, JCM for JSN, full PPR, Ridley or JCM. In a full PPR, I'd rather play Ja'Cory. I don't really feel comfortable playing Ridley just yet, especially with the offensive line probably going to be missing two starters this week against the Colts. I don't think that's really a fun matchup on hand. But as for your Debo and JCM for JSN trade, I don't have an issue with it considering it's a full PPR. Thank you. Carson Hughes sends in a question. Thank you, Carson. Says Kyron Williams or James Conner as my RB2 in a full PPR. I would prefer to play James Conner this week against the 49ers defense. Thank you. Paul Allen sends in a question. It says Matthew Golden or Travis Hunter in a half PPR. Okay, well, look, this is how Matthew Golden has been utilized specifically as of late. Let's think about his week 2 performance against the Washington Commanders. His average depth of target was 41 yards down the fucking field. Again, they are launching the ball down the field for him. Now, considering he has 4.4 or sub 4.4 speed, and like I mentioned yesterday within the Hidden Gems episode, the Green Bay Packers are taking on the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns play man coverage 51% of the time this season, most amongst all teams in the league. If you want to man cover Matthew Golden and he beats you, and again, amongst, I would say, I think he's in the top 10. I have to recheck this stat. I believe he's in the top 10 in terms of wide receiver separation thus far this season. He's playing incredibly well when the opportunities have been given to him within the routes that he's running, whether or not he is being targeted. Matthew Golden is probably the player that I would rather play in this circumstance until I can see some sort of signs of life, because it only takes one play for him to be relevant, and they are giving them multiple opportunities within these games. And I think the opportunity will probably present itself to him this game. And especially considering there's no read, I think the opportunity expands even further. I think the smart play would be to just go after Hunter, but again, they haven't utilized him in the ways in which we thought. He's basically getting, 5 catches for 20 yards. In a half PPR, I'd rather go after the big playability of Matthew Golden. Steven Shook sends in a question. Steven, thank you very much. Says PPR, would you rather have Metcalf or KA rest of season? Who's KA? Hold up. Let me... Because if it was AK, I'd be like, okay, that's Alvin Kamara. But who's KA? You know what? Let me go to the live chat. Somebody tell me who KA is, please. Am I crazy? I might just be losing my mind. Because I'm looking at names in terms of like who starts with the letter K in fantasy or in the NFL. Like Kyron, Kenneth, but they don't have A's as their last name. Kayshawn. But nobody's talking about Kayshawn Boudias right now. Who the heck is KA? Keenan Allen, thank you guys. Jesus Christ, I'm so stupid. You know what? Everybody forget this happened, please. Everybody forget this happened. My God, what an idiot. Look at this guy. Okay, anyway, sorry about that, guys. Anyway, please next time, just type the name out so I don't embarrass myself in front of the chat, guys. Come on, man. We know better, Steven. Anyway, as for your question, in terms of a full PPR format between DK Metcalf and Keenan Allen, here's my primary concern. I think Keenan Allen, again, has been playing incredibly well. I think his target count is going to stay as relevant as it's been going forward. And the only really concern that we ever have with Keenan Allen is health. Like, he's missed, time in each of the last 2 seasons because he's getting up there in age. If he's going to miss like 3 to 4 games this year, I think he'll still be really, valuable. I still want to hold out hope that, DK Metcalf hasn't even scraped the surface of his potential within this offense. Again, like I mentioned last week, or even this week, when we look at the first 4 games of if we look at the first 4 games of Aaron Rodgers with Garrett Wilson last year, Garrett Wilson was averaging 8 points per game and a half PPR. It was only after they fully built that rapport that it really started to take off. I think in due time, Metcalf will take off and be more valuable than Keenan Allen. So I would prefer to have the Metcalf side of this overall circumstance going forward. Thank you. Soy sends it a question. Says, sit 1. Evans, Egbuka, AJ Brown, or Tetaroa McMillan. Egbuka has to sit. Considering he did not practice all week long, and he's, of course, dealing with a little bit of a groin/hip injury, I'd be very concerned about the potential of him re-aggravating said injury and stepping out of the game. So Evans, AJ Brown, and Tetaroa McMillan will be my suggestion this week. So I thank you. Sean sends in a question, says, Pearsall, Ridley, or Wan'Dale Robinson in a full PPR? Wan'Dale Robinson would be my suggestion. I understand that Wan'Dale Robinson's been limited in practice all week long, but in terms of a full PPR format, considering the target opportunity share that he has been exposed to thus far this season, the only time I would ever consider playing either of the 2 alternative options, Pearsall or Ridley, ahead of him was in the event in which Juwan Jennings doesn't play for the 49ers this week, and Pearsall is the outright only lone starting wide receiver of that offense. That's the only time in which I would feel comfortable going about that path. Otherwise, I'm playing Wan'Dale Robinson this week. Thank you. Justin Cohen, thank you very much for the question. Justin says, in a 12-team PPR, 1 flex format, my quarterback is Williams and May. Beautiful quarterback combo there. Running backs are Jonathan Taylor, JCM, Travion Henderson, and Dylan Sampson. Wide receivers are CeeDee Lamb, Rome Odunze, Cortland Sutton, Pearsall, Golden, Bowers. Who should my RB2 and flex be this week? Okay, yeah, cool. I mean, look, I think you're in a really solid position. In terms of RB2, it has to be Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Again, when we look at the potential of what Sampson has provided, as soon as Judkins got into the equation last week, Sampson eventually just kind of disappeared. If it wasn't for the late garbage time touchdown with Dylan Gabriel, pretty much was a non-factor. As for Travion Henderson, I like the matchup, but I just don't like the opportunity share that he has been given and divvied out over the season thus far. So JCM and JT are your options at running back. Obviously, at wide receiver, your top 2 options are CeeDee Lamb and Rome Odunze. As for your number 3 option, I'd lean towards playing Sutton there. Again, very similar in which I talked about with Sean in the prior question. In the event in which Juwan Jennings is not active tomorrow, then you would pivot to playing Pearsall. But again, many of us have the difficulty of not... Oh, actually, in your case, it would actually be relevant in which you could make the pivoting option in the event in which that does occur. Let me tell you why. So tomorrow, the San Francisco 49ers play in the afternoon window slate of games. Therefore, you would need to have an alternative pivoting option within that similar slate, which again, the Broncos and Chargers play in that window. So you could pivot from Sutton to Pearsall in the event in which Juwan Jennings is absent tomorrow. And that would be my only other suggestion. Otherwise, I am playing Sutton there this week. Thank you. Eric Avalar sends it a question. Says, who do I flex in a PPR? Ladd, Egbuka, or Genty? Got to play Genty this week. I think Ladd McConkey is someone that it's very difficult for me to leave him on my bench. But I want to hope that the potential opportunity share that Genty will be exposed to this week will be greater than what he has seen thus far in the past. Like he even said in his own press conference after the game, they didn't draft me this high to not give me touches. They're going to give him touches going forward. I know that he is an absolute liability within the pass blocking situation, but he'll be adjusted for that. So it's fine. I think Genty's the play in this circumstance. Ricky Daly sends it a question. Says, would you trade London and Hampton for Nico Collins and Tetaroa McMillan in a full PPR? I'm currently 0-2. I think it's 100% contingent on what your running back depth looks like. I think if you're giving away a running back and you're not getting one in return, I think it does create a cause for concern in the event in which when injuries and or bye weeks are to transpire in the not so distant future here, bye weeks start in just week 5 and by apocalypse, begin relatively soon here. If you're giving away a running back and you're not getting one in return, are you going to be hurting in the long run? If you are stacked at running back and you say, Andrew, listen, I've already got, as of right now, Josh Jacobs, Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams, and JCM. Okay, you know what? At that point, you've got 4 starters. So at this point, I think you can afford to make a trade of this caliber, and you'd be improving wide receiver because I do prefer Nico over London, and I think McMillan is only getting to begin to scratch the surface of his potential within this offense. So, yeah, if that's the kind of scenario you're in, then so be it. Yeah, let's take the deal. Thank you. Ron Scoff sends in a question. Thank you, my man. Says in an 8-team full PPR, I've got offered Genty and McLaurin for Jacobs and Hill. Interesting. I'd rather have the Jacobs and Hill side. I think rest of season, in terms of how I would have it ranked, I would prefer to have Josh Jacobs. And then in regards to McLaurin and Hill, I have them relatively equally ranked, to which I would rather just take Hill and trade him for another alternative piece, in which I could buy low on. So I'm not looking to, I'm not going to approach it. You know what? I'd even prefer Hill in this circumstance. So, because there's always a chance he gets traded. So Jacobs and Hill is the preferred side. I wouldn't take the Genty kind of situation here going forward. I look at your team, you say you have Lamar, Bijan, Jacobs, Charbonnet, JCM, Henderson, Harvey, Nico, BTJ. Yeah, I would prefer to just keep the Jacobs side of this circumstance. Thank you, Ronskoff. Appreciate it. Let's hear. G sends in a question. Jiwa says, Kenneth Walker for Goff and Harvey. Kenneth Walker and Tyreek Hill for who? Okay, so when you ask these very okay, these are very broad questions, guys. If you're going to ask me a trade question, more context you provide, the easier it'll be. In regards to your question, Jiwa, I would assume that's how we pronounce the name. Kenneth Walker for Goff and Harvey. Unless you're playing in a super flex, I don't see why you would make that trade. I'd rather have Kenneth Walker. As for Kenneth Walker and Tyreek Hill for who? If you were going to trade 2 for 1 in this circumstance, you'd have to go for one of the top tier running backs. So legitimately, if you're going to trade away Kenneth Walker, who could very easily be top 12, and Tyreek Hill, who again has been solid each of the last 2 weeks for fantasy purposes, if you're going to move both those player options in order to bring back a running back, I'm going after Derrick Henry. I'm going after somebody that is up there in that kind of I'd go after a Josh Jacobs. And I think at that point you may be even giving up too much, but I would go after, an Achane, a Henry, something like that, because those are 2 solid players that would be immediate starters for any team in your league. Kay sends in a question, says Garrett Wilson, George Pickens, or DJ Moore in the flex PPR. That's a really good question. I kind of want to lean towards playing. Okay, so I want to lean towards playing George Pickens there. I want to, but I think I'm just going to stick with playing Garrett Wilson, just because he is the number 1. Josh Reynolds earlier today on Friday was designated out. So it probably leans in the favor of Garrett Wilson's going to get almost all the targets within this offense going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. So the opportunity is not, I think you have to play Garrett Wilson just because of how this offense is functioning. Probably a negative game script potentially on par. And in all honesty, I really do think that wide receiver ones against this defense have performed well, and I think they'll continue to do so. I think Garrett Wilson's the play. But I want to play Pickens because I think it might be a shootout there, but I'll lean towards Garrett Wilson. Thank you. Kent sends in a question, says, appreciate the support, bro. Questions in the chat. Thank you, Kent. I appreciate that. Let me go ahead and, if I could ask you, please do me a favor. Type your question in the live chat. That'd be greatly appreciated. I'd assume by the time in which you send that, and by the time I'm now reading this question, it's probably gone. So retype in your question when you get a chance. Thanks, man. Troops McGee sends in a question. Says in a 12-team full PPR, I traded Laporta and Quentin Johnson for Warren. Is it too much? I don't think it's too much. Look, if you're getting Tyler Warren, okay, again, Tyler Warren is going to be expected to play tomorrow, which is fantastic. 2 thumbs up. Tyler Warren has done enough thus far in his career to convince me that he is worth that kind of a trade. So yeah, I don't have an issue with it at all. He's going to be he's a tight end thus far this season already. In his short career, in 2 games, he is a set it and forget it tight end. We don't care about matchups. We don't care about nothing. He is clear in a way they are designing the offense to get him looks. Guys, in this most recent week, they lined him up as fullback in a it was an offset eye pistol. So you can either call that queen or king, depending on what kind of functionality in which been taught football. But in which they're playing a offset eye, fullback pistol formation, and he runs a 7 route out of the A gap and gets the target 20 yards down the field. They are setting up everything to get him open. Yeah, Warren's a monster. Mr. Papa Nasty sends in a question. Says, still Kyron or Tyler Warren this week. Or sorry, Jalen Warren, not Tyler Warren. My bad. I think I'd rather play Jalen Warren this week, especially if we're talking about a full PPR. I'll take Jalen Warren in this circumstance. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, let me go into the live chat. Let me see if we can find a question from Kent. Hopefully Kent had been around to type that in for us recently. Kent, what's up, my man? Says my quarterback is Stroud or Mariota. I'd rather play Mariota this week, legitimately. Says Daniel Jones or Bo Nix in a PPR. I'd rather play Daniel Jones there. Says PPR confident in JCM over Calvin Ridley. Am I confident? No. I mean, look, here's the thing. Calvin Ridley and any wide receiver literally just needs one play deep down the field and they can make their entire fantasy week, right? Like, it just takes one defender falling down and it's over. Right? That is the beauty and the nature of fantasy that kind of gives us the unpredictability of the wide receiver position in its circumstance. So as of right now, am I omega confident in the idea? No, but I do prefer to play a JCM. As for your next question, Tedero McMillan or McLaurin, I'd rather play McMillan there, considering, again, AJ Terrell is going to be out. And then saying flexing JCM and DJ Moore, swap Tillman, Judkins, Harvey, Hollywood, or leave. No, I would leave it as is. You're good to go there, my man. Thank you, Kent. I appreciate the question and the super. All right, let's see here. What do we have in terms of the next load of questions? We have a question that came in from Alejo. Sends in a question. Says in a full PPR, I need 2 wide receivers in a flex. Okay, let's see what you have here. Let's pull this up. Says I need 2 wide receivers in a flex. My wide receivers are Ladd McConkey, Devontae Adams, and Marvin Harrison Jr., Terry McLaurin. Okay, cool. Running backs are Breece Hall and Omarion Hampton. Cool. So I'm assuming you're playing Breece Hall and Omarion Hampton already. If that's the case, I'm going to assume that's the case. So if we're in need of 2 wide receivers in a flex out of the 4 available or the 5 available wide receivers that you've mentioned here, actually it is 4 available wide receivers. Devontae Adams, Ladd McConkey, and I'm probably leaning towards, do I want to play? Yeah, I do want to play Marv. Ladd, Devontae, Marvin Harrison. Terry McLaurin sits out this week. Thank you. Emily Doyle sends in a question. Says Wan'Dale, Pearsall, or Judkins in the flex full PPR. Wan'Dale Robinson's my suggestion. Let me see when the Giants play tomorrow. Let me just confirm this. NFL schedule. So the Giants play tomorrow against the Chiefs in the their Sunday night game. Wow, that's a really bad game. Okay. So here's my suggestion, Emily. I would like to play Wan'Dale Robinson in a full PPR. In the event in which tomorrow afternoon, Juwan Jennings of the 49ers is designated out. Okay, in the event in which that does happen, hypothetically speaking, at that point, I'd play Pearsall. In the event in which he is not designated out, then at that point, we would just stick with Wan'Dale Robinson this week. Thank you. Outdoors for Life says, how confident are you in Daniel Jones this week? I mean, look, Daniel Jones has proven, based on his 2 performances against the Miami defense, which again is lackluster, and then against one of the top tier defenses and secondaries in the league in the form of, the Denver Broncos. He threw for 300 yards against them. I'm trying to even remember, when was the last time a quarterback actually threw for over 300 against Denver? I'm going to actually cross-reference that right now, just so I have it an active. I'm going to assume it's Josh Allen in the playoffs, but outside of that, no, Josh Allen didn't even throw for 300. So only twice last season did quarterbacks ever throw for over 300 yards against that defense. Okay, one of which was Jameis Winston, who, I mean, you guys remember that game? Jameis Winston threw for all the yards, and then it was a Joe Burrow game. So very seldom do quarterbacks really take advantage of the secondary. Daniel Jones is a good player. So yeah, I'm very confident with it. And now that Tyler Warren has been designated good to go, fire him up. Again, whenever you have, Indiana Jones getting pushed in for touchdowns free of charge, I think it just makes him an easy play, especially when you're taking on Tennessee. It makes it that much easier. Rob M sends it a question. Thank you, Rob. Says, trade my Chase and Hubbard for Lamb and ETN. I'm not going to lie. I think I like that trade. I think in terms of value across the board, I think Lamb is going to be a better receiver than Chase rest of the season, primarily because of the quarterback. And then when we talk about Hubbard and ETN, I think they have relatively comparable value. ETN obviously has the more foremost threat of Bashaw Tutin digging into his workload, but I still think he's going to be relevant enough in the meanwhile, or until we get to midway, until we get more of a Bashaw Tutin opportunity share to where I'm okay making this move. I think it's an equal trade across the board, because I do think that eventually in due time, Hubbard will be more valuable than ETN, but same thing with Lamb and Chase. So I think it is equal. I'm okay with that. Thank you. Christian sends in a question. Says PPR Kyron or Sutton. That's a really good one. Drake May or Dak Prescott. Wow. We've got some absolute heater questions, huh? Okay, so when we're looking at the potential of quarterback this week, so let me zoom out here. In terms of where I have Drake May and Dak Prescott, considering the injuries that have now kind of been developed in regards to the potential of this Dallas versus Chicago game, I have moved Dak Prescott up and ahead of Drake May. So I will lean towards playing Dak Prescott here this week. If you want to play Drake May, I have no problem with it. They're going to probably be back-to-back ranked as like 8-9 or 7-8 tomorrow in my Sunday morning rankings. Again, you guys remember every Sunday morning I live stream here for 3 hours minimum. If not some, Sunday mornings when we get to the UK games, it'll be 4-hour live streams. But those rankings will be on screen. I'll have Dak probably one spot ahead of Drake May this week. As for Cortland Sutton and Kyron Williams, I don't know if I'm going to get to the point to where I want to sit Kyron. I'm going to play Kyron this week. Let's just see how it goes. I think that Los Angeles Chargers matchup is enough to where I'm okay playing Kyron and just leaning on his potential for upside in this circumstance. Thank you. All right, we move on to a question from Joe Wilson, who says, I'm in an 8-man half PPR, 1 flex format. I need help with my flex this week. Currently got Tony Pollard, okay, on the bench, and I have Egbuka, Pearsall, Dobbins, and Keenan Allen. Okay, so if you have all these available options in a half PPR, honestly, I think of the bunch, I kind of just want to play Keenan Allen out of this group. But I know it's difficult considering, again, you're taking on that secondary of the Denver Broncos. What I will tell you is that of the group, I don't want to really play Pearsall. Sorry, I don't really want to play Pearsall or Egbuka. So it's really a Tony Pollard, J.K. Dobbins, Keenan Allen circumstance. And I'd only ever play Pearsall in the event in which Juwan Jennings is out, which becomes a matter of like, depending on who you start or who you're going to play, can you pivot off that? I mean, you technically could roll with like, oh, I'm going to roll with Dobbins, and then in the event in which Juwan Jennings is out in the afternoon slate, then we'll swap. Let me see where I have. You have Pollard, you have Dobbins, you have Keenan Allen. Okay, let me see where I have Pollard and Dobbins comparatively to one another. Pollard is there. Okay, now where do I have Keenan Allen in a half PPR in comparison to Pollard? Let's see. Where is Mr. Tony Pollard? Okay, so seeing as to how I currently have it structured, Pollard, let's see, where the heck is, technically speaking, based on projections, I have Pollard ranked the highest of the group. If it was a full PPR, I changed my mind. If Pearsall was playing and there was no Juwan Jennings, I changed my mind. So now, which I'm thinking, instead of pushing Pollard because I have him so closely ranked with Dobbins, I think I push to the afternoon window. In the event in which Pearsall has the lone opportunity of no Juwan Jennings, I play Pearsall. Otherwise, I just play with probably... do I want to play Dobbins? No. At that point, I think it's just Keenan Allen or I go Pearsall. That's how I'm going to go about it, Joe Wilson. Sorry about me waffling for a minute there. I haven't really structured and completed the rankings as of yet to where I can blindly push towards them. But for now, I'm going to go Pearsall. Keenan Allen, pivot into Pearsall if necessary. Thank you. Goodness, that's not the right word. C. Harles says, in a full PPR, Judy or Troy Franklin? I'd rather just play Troy Franklin at that point. Thank you. Outdoors for Life says, do you trust Pollard or J.K. Dobbins? Yeah, that's funny. That's being asked immediately after I just went with that. As of right now, I'd probably, who do I trust more? I trust Dobbins more because I think that the offense is just more equipped to lead him to scoring more points. So that's where I'd lean in the direction of. Thank you. Rowett sends in a question, says, pick 3. Pacheco, Kraft, McLaurin, Juwan Johnson, Ridley, Dobbs, Higgins, Renfro. Okay. If I'm picking 3 with no context of what your scoring format is, I'd lean towards probably playing Juwan Johnson, McLaurin, and Kraft. And just going for potential touchdown upside with the 3. Thank you. LDMND sends in a question. Says full PPR, 12 team, 2 wide receiver, 2 running back, 1 flex format. Says I can set up my lineup and offer any trade suggestions, teams in the comments. Okay. I'm going to ask you to retype in your question because I guarantee you it's probably not in there at the moment. So once you get an opportunity to do so, DMND, I'd appreciate that. Thanks, man. Until then, I'm going to go ahead and answer some of these other questions. We have IM who sends in a question. Thank you, IM. Says flex DK or Egbuka. I'd prefer to play DK Metcalf against a secondary of the New England Patriots that does not have Christian Gonzalez active. So DK Metcalf is the preferred. Says also projected to win by 5 points without a kicker. Do I drop someone for a kicker still? Absolutely, you have to. Says Christian McCaffrey, Mason, Neighbors, Adunze, DK, Egbuka, Benson, Henderson, Judkins, Brian Robinson, Coleman, and we have Godwin. Okay, so look, if I was in your position, I'd probably end up pivoting off of either Keon Coleman, Trey Benson, or Brian Robinson. Considering you have Christian McCaffrey, I think it would not be smart to drop Brian Robinson just in case. So at that point, I'm either dropping Trey Benson or I'm dropping Keon Coleman. In this circumstance, I think in terms of long-term value, I'd rather have Keon on my team rather than Trey Benson. So that's the direction I'd go in, especially in a full PPR. And I would drop that for a kicker immediately. And if the kickers for the Colts is available, Spencer Schrader, that's what I would suggest you lean towards. Otherwise, there's many of other good kickers. I'm sure Brandon McManus could be available. Chad Ryland could be available. Eddie Pinheiro could be available. There's a lot of good options out there that I'm 100% sure that are like 3% rostered in your league. All right, Min Lee sends in a question. Min, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It says PPR 2 flex this week. Jennings, Swift, Bill, Moore, or Judy. Okay. In the event in which Jennings does play this week, against the Arizona Cardinals with no Will Johnson, their primary number one cornerback, I would prefer to play Jennings alongside of most likely DJ Moore in this circumstance. In the event in which that is not the case and Jennings is inactive, I'd go with Swift and Moore. So I'm basically leaning towards trying to play the Bears unless Jennings is available for you there, man. Thank you. No Love Matt sends it a question. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it. It says in a half PPR, I have BTJ and Ladd at wide receiver and Mason and Barkley at running back. Okay. With Igbuka and Breece Hall at the flex, I also have Bowers and Warren on the bench. I have Bowers and Warren on the bench. Okay. Is there any way I can play both? Sorry for the rant. It's not a rant. You're good to go, my man. As of right now, honestly, am I playing Tyler Warren over Emeka Egbuka? I think the answer is yes. Are you playing a full? You're playing a half. Look, the thing is, Egbuka has that touchdown upside that I don't know if... I mean, we've seen Tyler Warren get red zone targeted or end zone targeted, and it's just not, like, they're not accurate opportunities, obviously, but... What do I have Warren currently? Yeah, as it currently stands in a half PPR, I have Tyler Warren ranked higher than Emeka Egbuka, mainly because of the injury concern that Egbuka has. But again, that was on Thursday, in which I didn't have much clarity on Tyler Warren either. But considering both of them are expected to be full goes this week, let's see here. Where's Tyler Warren? Okay. Emeka. Yeah. It's tough. Like, I think what Egbuka provides in terms of touchdown possibility outweighs what the baseline of what Tyler Warren could provide. So I think you kind of have to play Bowers. You have to play Egbuka because of the half PPR format. Had it been a full, I'd be like, okay, you know what? We could probably lean in that direction. But that's the way that I'm gonna approach it as it stands. Thank you, No Love Matt. Appreciate it. LDMND. Okay, you sent in your follow-up. Okay, perfect. I appreciate it. It says, I have Baker, Egbuka, Evans, Devontae Adams, and DJ Moore, pick 3. Okay, so I think this is a completely different question than your prior one, but let's answer this one, and I'll go into the live chat, DMND. In regards to Baker, Egbuka, Evans, Devontae Adams, DJ Moore, if I'm picking 3 of these wide receivers, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, DJ Moore. Thank you. All right, let me see if you had something followed up in the live chat. DMND. Says, I have May, Barkley, Pollard, Dobbins, Rashad White, Najee Harris, London, Higgins, Sutton, Pearsall, and Hawkinson. Okay. Looking at the team as a whole. So obviously, I think Drake May is a solid quarterback. I think we've already been established and exposed to that thus far this season in Week 2's performance against Miami. Hopefully, he'll continue to be able to string together very similar performances and, of course, get himself active within the rushing category. Barkley is a great play. I think Dobbins, obviously, is going to be solid for a while here. Pollard, again, is someone that if, in fact, he comes off with a big performance sooner rather than later, you want to ship him out because Spears is eventually going to return. As for the rest of your running backs, they're pretty much just handcuffs. London, Higgins, Sutton, Pearsall. I mean, London and Sutton are your number 1 and 2 options. Higgins, again, is a downgrade in comparison to where he was with Burrow. Pearsall is like kind of your lottery ticket that soon enough, once Purdy comes back, is going to be in a better position. But as of right now, I'm not really out here making solidified moves unless you are selling like Pollard after a week's performance here for a better tight end, which I think it probably should be something that you should be exploring in the not too distant future if Hawkinson's not able to put together some solid performances here. You could end up taking Hawkinson if he does perform well and still ship him off in the event in which you can go buy low on another tight end, depending on how this week's performances go. But that would be my immediate suggestions. I want to try to improve your tight end. I want to try to improve RB2 because I mean, if you could sell high on Dobbins, I think that is also very much so something that I'd be interested in. I'd go after guys like Hampton, Genty, JCM, Hall. I think those are better options for the future of the season. Thank you. Okay, continuing on with some of these questions. Again, really quickly, I just want to thank you guys for being patient. Again, there's a lot of you and one of me trying to get to all these questions as possibly or as quickly as possible. I know I'm very long-winded with a lot of my responses, but trying my best to give you guys explanations. I appreciate it. Rogo had sent in a super chat, just said hit the like button, y'all. Thank you very much, Rogo. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, if you guys can, that'd be greatly appreciated. Click the like button. Thank you. Detroit sends in a question. Detroit says, crazy to trade my Henry and Olave for Brees and BTJ. I would say it is crazy. Look, I can understand the trade. I think in terms of value points as a whole, I think the contributions, or not the contributions, the investment in terms of draft capital on Brees Hall plus BTJ was higher than Henry and Olave, right? But Olave's looked pretty good so far. Henry's going to continue to be one of his, these top tier options. If you wanted to make the trade, I'm okay with it. I'm just not in love with the idea as of right now. So the question then becomes like, in a vacuum, do I prefer the Henry side? Yes, but in a context of your team, if Olave is starting weekly, at that point I'd be like, okay, you know what, maybe we can have a discussion as to pivoting outright, because I do like the upcoming schedule for the Jets. Like, the Jets schedule is very favorable. There's a reason why every time somebody asks me like who will be trading for a running back, I mention Hampton, Genty, JCM, and then Hall, because when we look at the upcoming schedule here, we have the Dolphins in week 4, then we have the Cowboys, then the Broncos. Okay, the Broncos a little bit of a tough one, but again, still very doable in terms of running the ball down their throat. So Dolphins, Cowboys, Broncos. Then the Panthers, Bengals, Browns, Patriots. Like, the upcoming schedule for the Jets is very favorable considering how bad of a win-loss record they had last season. Then it continues on. You have a Baltimore matchup, which is difficult, but then you have the Falcons, the Miami Dolphins again, the Jaguars, the Saints, then the Patriots. Like, I think there's a high likelihood that Garrett Wilson and Brees Hall are very valuable long-term. So yeah, if Olave is starting for you, then I can justify the pivot there. Spencer James sends in a question, says, with weather possibly a factor, do I start Herbert or Dak? I'm not really, here's the thing, guys. I don't really like to harp on weather being a potential issue unless it is the worst possible weather I've ever seen. Again, I understand that there's going to be potential rain showers this weekend, but again, that the key word in that situation is potential, right? So we don't know if that is actually going to be the case. Until I know and I can see the weather firsthand off of Twitter or a person that has boots on the ground, which many of the members of our community obviously let me know on Sunday mornings as to how that looks. As of right now, between the Chicago Bears and the Dallas Cowboys, it says 33% chance. And when we talk about 33%, that's not a matter of like, it's a 33% chance that it rains. It's a 33% of the area which the city of Chicago, downtown where the football stadium is, 33% of that area will be covered with rain. As to whether the stadium is covered is tough to predict. So right now, I'm still leaning towards playing. Well, actually, right now, do I play Herbert or Dak? I still have Herbert ranked higher. Let me just get to that first and foremost. As to your next question, T. Higgins or Quentin Johnson, I'd rather play T. Higgins. Thank you. James Hurd sends in a question. Thank you, James. Says, in a half PPR, who is a better start, Dobbins or Wan'Dale Robinson? In a half PPR, technically, it's Dobbins. Wan'Dale Robinson, again, is a solid play, but a little bit of a lesser option, especially considering I don't expect him to have that big of an upside performance as he did this most recent week. So Dobbins would technically be the better play. Thank you. Tom Lee sends in a question. Says, Pitts or Njoku? I'd rather play Kyle Pitts. Says, Pickens, Higgins, or Pearsall? As of right now, Pickens is number 1. In the event in which Juwan Jennings was out, I would pivot to playing Pearsall, but Pickens is number 1. Half PPR scoring format. Thank you. I appreciate it, Tom. Says Nick, a question from Nick Dunham, who says, in a PPR, I have Marv, AJ Brown, Keenan Allen, Waddle, Ridley. Okay. My running backs I have are Cook, Kyron, Brees, Swift, and Tootin. Someone wants Mike Kyron for Jacoby Myers. Yeah, no thank you. You can tell them to properly shove it. No thank you. We're going to keep Kyron and we're going to keep it moving. Thank you. Unless they're going to give you a better offer, that's not something that I'm too interested in. I think you have enough wide receiver depth to be able to sustain, and I don't think you need Jacoby Myers in this situation. Thank you. Chance sends in a question. Chance Ramchuk says, I need to flex in a half PPR. Judkins, JMO, or Scattaboo. Okay, I'm not interested in playing Judkins this week, primarily because of that matchup against one of the best run-stopping defenses in the league thus far, which is the Green Bay Packers. Between JMO and Scattaboo in a half PPR, I would prefer to play JMO. I think that Kansas City run-stop defense is legit. It has been for years. JMO is the better option in a potential shootout against Baltimore. Oni sends in a question. Thank you, Oni. Says flex 1 in a PPR. Pearsall, Booty, Franklin, or RJ Harvey. Out of that group, under the assumption, actually, regardless of any assumptions, Pearsall is the play. That's it. That's the way I go about it. That's my highest ranked. Troy Franklin will be 2, Booty would be 3, or Butte, however you want to pronounce it, or Harvey would be 4. And then also super flex pick Marcus Mariota or Trevor Lawrence or Chase Brown. Thanks. I'd play Marcus Mariota over the bunch. Thank you. Let's go. Buffalo sends in a question. Says in a half PPR, Wentz or Mariota this week? I would prefer to play Mariota. Thank you. Says Pitts or Fan in rest of season. I would assume that Pitts is probably I think he's a little bit more trustworthy because he doesn't have an Njoku in his back pocket. And it also says, please rank between Downs, Kirk, Renfro, Hollywood, Tillman, and as a stash, Tracy worth a stash. Tracy's worth a stash if anything ever happens to Scatterboo. Otherwise, he's not really valuable. In regards to the other options that you mentioned, in regards to ranking these players for this week between Downs, Kirk, Renfro, Hollywood, and Tillman, considering Xavier Worthy is out this week, Hollywood would be number 1. I would lean towards probably playing Renfro 2, Kirk 3, Downs 4, Tillman 5. Thank you. Cam the Ham sends in a question. Thanks, Cam. I appreciate it. It says, should I trade Henderson for ETN? I would. I'm comfortable with that. Thank you. Keith Allen sends in a question. It says, PPR, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, Franklin, Io Manor, Golden, Shaheed, start 1. I'd play JCM. Give me Bill. Thank you. Justin Gurin sends in a question. Full PPR, 1 flex, 12-team league. We have Knicks, we have McCaffrey. Okay, let's see what we have here. Boom, close that. Okay, we have Knicks, McCaffrey, Kyron Williams, Nico Ladcraft just traded Garrett Wilson for BTJ. Congratulations, firm handshakes, brother. That's a fantastic trade. Devontae Smith, Hampton, Judkins, Diggs, and Golden. Any moves? Yeah, look, I think you're in a really good spot, guys. Really quickly, I also want to mention Stephon Diggs is probably a player that come next week or maybe the week after I'm trading for. As of right now, he's been on a snap count. He's only playing about 50% of the offensive snaps in each of the first 2 games, and his production has been incredibly high in terms of the opportunity share that he has been given. Because he's coming off of the ACL, like we have seen in the past, if you guys remember Breece Hall in 2023, the first 4 games of the season coming off of an ACL are typically a ramp up. That is what we have experienced, the witness from Stephon Diggs. Expect him for, once we get to week 5, to completely be unleashed within this offense and be the clear number 1. So that's somebody that I'm certainly going after in terms of an incredibly buy low candidate that people in your league will probably just be willing to hand out because they don't know the value in which he possesses for the remainder of the season. As for the rest of your question in specific, if we're talking about 1 flex, 12-team league, any moves to make, I don't think, after making this move of bringing in BTJ to just kind of pair him up alongside of Lad and Nico, and you have McCaffrey, Kyron, Nix, Kraft, like really, I think your worst player on your offense is technically Bo Nix, and I still think he's got a lot of upside. On top of the fact that you have Hampton on your bench, like you're stacked. There's no moves to make. Just give it time, and you're going to just continue to win games here. Thank you. All right. Levon Davis sends in a question. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Says it TJ Hawkinson or Jatera? Yeah. Oh, goodness. Jay Sanders in a half PPR. I understand the potential at which we may consider playing Sanders there. I'm going to give it a week. I'll just roll with my Hawkinson there as my hidden gem. In a half PPR, T. Higgins, DJ Moore, Tet McMillan, Bill, DJ Moore flex 2. If I'm playing 2 of those options this week, I would lean towards playing Tetaroa and probably DJ in this circumstance. Thank you. All right, King Salos Temple sends in a question. Says, hey, Andrew, in a full PPR, Travion Henderson, Tyler Algier, or Bayshal Tootin? In a full, geez Louise, PPR. Where do I have Hendo in comparison to Algier? Let me check right now. So as of right now, I technically do have Hendo ahead of him because the Pittsburgh Steelers can't stop the run. Safest play, yeah, I'm going to go with Henderson there. I think Algier could very easily dominate in garbage time just like he did last week, just like he did last season against the Carolina Panthers. If I'm not mistaken, against the Panthers last season, scored 10+ points in both those games in a full PPR. So there is inherent risk with not going with Algier here, to which by tomorrow I may change my mind. But for right now, I want to hope that Hendo can be the guy. Paul Adams says, sent a DM on Discord. How's the starting lineup? All right, Paul, let me see what your lineup looks like here. I got to check with my phone because if I open it on my computer, I will crash the live stream. So let's see what we have here. Looking at the lineup as a whole, we have Caleb, we have Amon-Ra, we have Neighbors, Kamara, Jordan Mason, Jawan Jennings. Yeah, great, fantastic. Tyreek Hill performed well enough for you at least. Reichard and Atlanta. Yeah, pretty good. Let me look at the bench. Yep, no changes to be made. And you have your IR spots. You're good to go there, my man. Perfect. I think the only thing that I wouldn't even consider changing that. You're good to go. All good to go there, Paul. Thank you. Tex Raider sends in a question. Tex, long time no see. I hope you're doing well, my man. Says in a full PPR, wide receiver. are Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Egbuka, Chris Olave, and Calvin Ridley. My running backs are Bijan Jacobs, Chase Brown, ETN. Team wants ETN, Olave, and Ridley for their Pollard, Pittman, AJ Brown, and Tootin. I'm not so convinced on that. Like, here's the thing. With the running back depth that you have, I don't think you should be making such all-encompassing trades. Like, I would feel way more comfortable taking Chase Brown or ETN and more like not one or the other. I would rather just take ETN right now and trade it 1-for-1 for a BTJ, a Nico Collins, a Drake London, just 1-for-1. That's what I would do. I mean, shoot, I'd even go further and potentially even explore into different wide receivers beyond those main guys that we drafted so highly this offseason. Like, that's what I'd be looking towards. Like, in a full PPR, it's probably impossible to get Jackson Smith and Jigba right now, but I'd try it. You know, even if it costs a little bit more in terms of sending ETN and another receiver at it. You know, like, I'm not so interested in this 4-for-4 deal, mainly because a lot of the options on that other team, I'm just not too interested in. I'm not too keen on acquiring in the long term. So that's my immediate kind of reaction to the situation here, Tex. So if you can, try to go make 2-for-1s or a 1-for-1 straight up, sending away ETN to try to bring in some other wide receiver value. I think that's probably in your best interest in comparison to this blockbuster kind of deal. Reese 2010 sends in a question. Thank you, Reese. I appreciate it. It says in a full PPR, I'm starting Chase and ETN as my running backs. I need one flex between Ridley, Kyron, and Egbuka. In a full PPR, I would still feel comfortable playing Kyron Williams there. Also, starting the Patriots defense, thoughts on Gonzalo plays. Yeah, he's not going to play. He's already designated out. And at that point, I'm okay still playing the Patriots defense. I just don't love it as much as I did, a couple days ago. So at this point, if I was to go look at my defensive rankings and potentially give you some alternative, options that you could pivot to, let me go ahead and scroll over here to where's my play? Okay, here we go. So in terms of some of the top defenses from this Thursday, and we'll continue to kind of look in that direction, right? Like Green Bay, we had the Indianapolis Colts, the Seahawks. We have the Minnesota Vikings, the Chiefs, the Falcons, the Commanders, the Buccaneers, the Bengals, the Chargers, the Eagles, the Steelers. The Patriots are my number 17 defense on the week on Thursday. Now they even go further down. So as of right now, if any of these alternative options like Indy, Seattle, Atlanta, Tampa are available, that's what I'd lean towards. Thank you. Dame sends in a question, says, will Golden take off? I hope so. Honestly, for all the hype that I gave Matthew Golden this offseason, God, do I hope so. So fingers crossed he does. I think there is a very high likelihood that there's a potential that everybody in this offense goes off against this Cleveland Browns secondary this weekend. But yeah, fingers crossed he makes a big play down the field and then gets to earn more opportunity. My only concern about Golden right now is that the role in which he's being utilized in is the Christian Watson role. Once Christian Watson comes back off ACL, it's going to be a little bit of a tricky situation to be able to start him weekly. So hopefully he goes off in the meanwhile. Lock Screen Gaming sends in a question. Thanks, Lock Screen. I appreciate it. It says in a full PPR, Bo Nix, Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason, Lamb, London, Warren. Who else do we have here? We have Ladd, Loop, Seahawks bench. Okay, we have JCM, Hampton, Ted McMillan, Javonte Williams. Top waivers are Judkins, Colts, DJ Moore. Wow. Okay, so considering the roster you currently have and the available options you currently have, I don't think you can make any moves, technically speaking. I think you're kind of just stuck. So just keep it as is. Like, you're playing in a league that has lesser teams, right? So if you were playing in like a 12-team league, those players wouldn't be available. But even in terms of long-term value, they don't even help you because you just have such a stacked team in itself, Lock Screen. So you just keep it as is, my man. Thank you. All right, we continue on with a question from Jeremy Melendez, who says, should I trade Chase for a running back in a full PPR? Okay, let's see what you have here. Josh Allen, Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams, Devontae Smith, Dunze, Wan'Dale Robinson, Kyron, Dobbins, Tracy, and Tootin. Okay, yeah, I don't mind the idea of making that kind of a move. I'd feel a little bit more comfortable moving a Dunze for a running back in the event in which you are capable of accomplishing that. Now, it doesn't have to be done this week. You can wait for a Dunze to have another huge performance here, then go ahead and ship him off for a Janty, hopefully, question mark. That's kind of the direction that I'm leaning in. In the event in which those kind of opportunities present themselves, yes, I think you should probably look to try to acquire a running back to try to, shore up this kind of situation, because Tracy and Tootin, Tracy is not startable. Tootin, as of right now, until further notice, is not startable. Even though he did look great in the opportunities he was given, we need a little bit more of an expansive role for me to trust him, because, again, he's not guaranteed to score touchdowns every week. So Dobbins and Kyron suffice for now. And I think you should probably just roll with him as it currently stands. And then once we get another huge performance here out of Adunze or maybe even Adams, you could ship off either of the two. I'd still like to keep Jamar Chase unless you are able to get a top tier running back in exchange. Like if someone's going to hand off a Jonathan Taylor for no reason or a Christian McCaffrey or Barkley or Gibbs, something of that exchange, James Cook, please, Derrick Henry, please and thank you. We'll take it. But otherwise, I think you just hold. Angel Martinez sends in a question, says flex in a half PPR, Franklin, Ramondre, or Tyler Warren? Wow, that's a good question. I would lean towards playing Ramondre Stevenson, though. Thank you. Again, I mentioned it yesterday. There's a reason why he's the number one hidden gem. He plays against Pittsburgh. They can't stop the run. They're going to run the ball to the left, and they're going to absolutely impose their will upon that defense. Steezy J sends in a question, says half PPR, 100 yard, 10-point bonus, Warren McBride duo, or Michael Pittman Jr. or Judkins in the flex. No, I'd go with Warren and McBride duo for sure. Thank you. Match sends in a question. Says pick 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs in the flex. In my personal league, Lamb, Moore, Egbuka, Allen, Pittman, Chase, Kamara, Ramondre, Stevenson, and Travion Henderson. Okay. So of this available options, if I'm starting 5, Lamb has to start. Additionally, I'd probably lean towards playing DJ Moore because of the shootout that is implicated. Additionally, if I'm looking for running backs, I'm going with Chase Brown and Kamara, and I'm probably flexing Ramondre in this circumstance. Thank you. Colin Smith sends in a question, says 6-point per passing touchdown. Herbert or Mayfield? I'd rather play Herbert. Again, with Mayfield having 3 of his starting 5 offensive linemen out this week, scares the crap out of me. PPR start 2 between Quentin Johnston, Bateman, and Troy Franklin. I'm not interested in playing Bateman. I think DeAndre Hopkins is probably going to get himself more and more of a role within this offense. So Troy Franklin and Quentin Johnston will be my suggested of the 2. Thank you. Suarez sends in a question, says sit 1, full PPR. Ladd, Garrett Wilson, Kamara, Mason, BTJ. If I'm sitting 1, legitimately speaking, I sit Ladd McConkey. Garrett Wilson, Kamara, Mason, BTJ, all play ahead of him. Will E sends in a question. Thank you, Will. Says, good afternoon, Goat. In a full PPR, would you consider starting Ramondre over Kyron? I am starting him probably over. No, I don't know about that. Do I make that move? That's sketch. And can I justify the pivot? Like, can I talk myself into it? Abso-freaking-lutely. But do I actually have the guts to pull that off? Probably not. Like, they're probably going to be incredibly closely ranked in tomorrow's rankings, but I'm still going to have Kyron ahead of him because I kind of just have to. Kyron's just been more consistent. So despite all the matchup and everything, I probably stick with Kyron, but they're going to be close. As for your next question, it says, who has the highest ceiling between Pearsall, Wanda Robinson, and Keenan Allen? The only way that Pearsall would ever have even close to the highest ceiling, quote unquote, would be if Juwan Jennings misses time. Otherwise, if we're just talking about the current iteration of these offenses, assuming everyone's healthy, the highest ceiling, theoretically speaking, is probably Wanda Robinson. But for right now, that's mainly just because of matchup. Thank you. I think Christian, what is his name? Christian, who's the cornerback right here? Let's see. Christian Fulton. Yeah, he's out for the Chiefs. It just makes it a little bit easier in that circumstance. Steven Shook sends in a follow-up. Says PPR, I have Chase Brown, Hampton, Judkins, Trey Benson, Lamb, Mike Evans, Metcalf, Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnston, Diggs. Do I trade Metcalf for Jordan Mason? That's a really interesting question. Well, look, okay, so here's the thing. I think you have the personnel to be able to make a move like this and sustain it. I think getting the running back help of Jordan Mason in the meanwhile, I think is very helpful. It's just a matter of, is Jordan Mason going to be able to sustain as the RB1 even after Aaron Jones returns? To which I'm going to say yes, because he's already outcarried him in week 1. So if we're going to be in a position in which, again, he pretty much is utilized as a bell cow back, even once Aaron Jones returns, he probably takes over, to where I'm okay with the idea of making this move, considering you can't afford it with your wide receiver depth as it currently stands. All right, Crazy Presents sends in a question. Says in a half PPR, would you trade Hampton and Ted McMillan for Drake London? No, I think that's giving up too much. I'd rather keep those options. Thank you. Again, if you were talking about the context of your team being like a 6 or 8 team league and everybody's got all-star rosters, sure. But in the event in which you were playing in a 10 to 12 team league, I think we're giving up too much in this scenario. Thank you again, Crazy Presents. David Garcia sends in a question. Thank you very much, David. I appreciate that. Says drop TJ Hawkinson for Bill Krosky Merritt. I already have Bowers. Yeah, I would immediately make that move. Absolutely. Thank you, David. Make that immediately. Jake Perez sends in a question. Thank you, Jake. I appreciate it. It says, should I accept this trade? In a half PPR, I get Kyron Adunze for Genty in London. No. I would rather have Genty in London rest of season. Thank you. Says, I have Javonte. Yeah, no. I would rather have Genty in London rest of season. I understand that they're both coming off of very underwhelming performances. They are the preferred rest of season long-term value. Thank you. Eric Avalar sends in a follow-up. Says, PPR League, I'm thinking of offering Ladd and Breece Hall for Chase Brown and Ertz. Nope, I'm not. Nope. No. Currently have rostered Derrick Henry, Genty, Igbuka, JSN. No. Here's the issue. It's not a matter of like, oh, you can't afford to make the trade. You can afford to make the trade, and that's what scares me. You should not be undervaluing your players at which you are currently doing so. The value at which Breece Hall and Ladd McConkey have rest of the season does not constitute bringing in Chase Brown and Ertz for the value of which they are going to present. So I know that you're in need of a better tight end option, but I don't think that Zach Ertz is your answer. He has scored a touchdown in each of the last 2 weeks. I think you are in a better position if you are trading those options, Ladd and or Breece Hall, for better tight ends, objectively. Like, if I'm going to be moving players of those caliber, I legitimately better be getting back Tyler Warren, Sam Laporta's, Sam Laporta, Tyler Warren, Travis Kelce's of the world. I better be getting back those kind of players. So as of right now, I don't want Ertz. And I think that completely turns me off to the idea of making this trade. Thank you. To the Max sends in a question. Says, sup, Andrew, in a 12-team full PPR standard league, one flex, any trades to go after, roster consisting of Gibbs, Achane, Sutton, JSN, Kincaid, Pearsall. Okay, bench is Braylon Allen, Rashad White, Jawan Johnson, Goddard. Okay, yeah, look, this is my thought process on the matter. You currently have two very much so thriving tight ends in the form of Kincaid and Jawan Johnson. Kincaid has scored twice in the last 3 weeks. Jawan Jennings has scored once, but could have scored twice, but has been the highest targeted tight end in fantasy. So in the event in which you are going to make a move here, I'm trying to sell one of those tight ends. You can play them on a weekly basis as a matchup kind of nightmare duo and just kind of roll with that as such. But in terms of a trade that I would make, like, you've got two stacked running backs. I would try to move a tight end to try to get an improvement at wide receiver, or potentially quote unquote flex. So try to move one of these two tight ends alongside of one of these other players that you have on roster, and let's try to go get a better flex option. Now, as to who we're going after, it's very much dependent on who in your league needs a tight end upgrade, and then we look at their roster and kind of evaluate from there. Okay, what do they have, and what can they feasibly give up and not really hurt them too much to where they're still in need of this tight end and want to make that trade. Thank you to the Max. The S-Box sends in a question. Says, I have the 49ers defense. Also available are the Chiefs, Commanders, Steelers, Chargers, Lions, Patriots, and Broncos. Okay. Which is best for long and short-term play? I think long-term play, there can be an argument that the Broncos are the go-to, the Chargers are the go-to, and the 49ers are the go-to. Those would be the three top ranked in that exact order. Broncos, Chargers, 49ers. As for short-term value, in the meanwhile, I really do like the idea of playing the Chiefs this week. If I'm looking for upcoming matchups that are also very much so, let me see what the Chargers schedule looks like. Like, the Chargers schedule is pretty advantageous in my mind going forward, at least in the next couple weeks here. Like, I understand they play the Broncos this week, but then they get the Giants next week, the Commanders the week after that, maybe with or without Jaden Daniels. We'll have to wait and see. So, and then the week after that, yeah, they've got some pretty good matchups in the not so distant future. So I think the answer in terms of this week would probably be the Chiefs or the Commanders. In the event in which we're talking long term, it's probably Broncos, Chargers, 49ers, etc. Thank you. Failure is no option. 80 sends in a question. Thank you, Failure. Says in a half PPR league, we have Franklin or Golden. I'd rather just play Franklin there. I think the opportunity share is enough to where I'm comfortable there. Thank you. Joshua Wilkins sends in a question. Says I got offered Ted McMillan and JCM for Jordan Mason and Matthew Golden. Yeah, sounds good to me. I'll take that deal. Says in a 12-team half PPR, it's got Mahomes. Yeah, considering the value of which you are being provided with McMillan and JCM, you have two starters there that are going to be the best in, potentially the best at their position in terms of rookies. We have Ted McMillan, who leads all receiving, rookies in terms of yardage. I don't think Matthew Golden's going to catch up there. I think it's just a matter of, like, this is a 2-for-1 trade. Like, you are giving Jordan Mason and the value that he could potentially have for the rest of the season for McMillan and JCM. And I think considering the T. Higgins downgrade, I think this trade is actually very helpful for you rest of the season. Thank you. Dragon Slayer, what's up, my man? Sends in a question. Says PPR pick 2, London, Debo, or Adunze. Yeah. Of the available, if I'm picking 2 of the 3, I'm playing London, and Adunze this week. Thank you. Josh sends in a question. Says in a full PPR, I need upside in my flex. We have T-Mac, we have Genty, we have Jacobs. Okay, really quickly, if we're playing with those three options and we are going to just play one of them, it's going to be Jacobs. He could come away with 3 touchdowns this week and we wouldn't blink. That's the kind of upside and baseline floor that he has. It's so high that you have to start him. Now, as for the rest of the alternative options of questions you have here, which defense, Vikings, Chargers, or Colts? I would play the Colts this week. It says, which defense should I drop for the Colts? Or sorry, who should I drop for the Colts? We have Hawkinson or Warren. Wait, what? Which defense should I drop for Colts? Not exactly sure what you mean by that. If you have the Vikings and Chargers on roster, at that point, I'd probably end up dropping. Let me look at the Vikings' upcoming schedule. The Vikings' upcoming schedule against Steelers, Browns, Eagles, Chargers. Now, if I'm dropping one of those two, I drop the Vikings defense in order to pick up the Colts this week. I'm playing Warren over Hawkinson, and you're good to go. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it again. King Zamir sends in a question. Thank you, Zamir. Says in a PPR, sit one between McMillan, Metcalf, and Egbuka. Of the three, Egbuka is the odd man out. Thank you. Says also Travis Hunter or Troy Franklin. I'd rather play Troy Franklin this week. Thank you. PC sends in a question. PC, long time no see, my man. Says PPR, pick one in the flex. D Swift, JMO, Ferguson, and or Scadaboo. Okay, I think I'm just going to play Fergie there in a full PPR. JMO would probably be my next best option. Swift third, and then Scadaboo fourth. Thank you. Big Swole sends in a question. Says start 2 in the flex. Sorry, start 2, flex 1. Apologies. K9, Mason, Kamara, Gibbs, Swift. Okay, Gibbs has to play. Kenneth Walker has to play. If it's a full PPR, give me Kamara. If it's a half PPR or standard, give me Mason. Thank you. Rajveer Rupal sends in a question. Says in a PPR, I need 2. Pickens, ETN, Walker, Myers. Yeah, give me both of the running backs. Give me ETN and give me Walker. Thank you. Turd sends in a question. Says, Dynasty, PPR, no tight end premium. Should I offer Pearsall plus Loveland plus a 26 late first for Bowers? Ooh, okay. Or is it too much? How do we feel about Bowers long term? I think Bowers, again, this is the thing. I'm trying to think, like, can I compare Bowers to any other tight end? We've never seen a tight end come out of college and find that much success that quickly. So with the success he has already found, he could probably just be the guy for the next 10 years and no one would even doubt it. To which, like, the investment is good, but, like, the fact that it's not a tight end premium league, like, are we giving up too much just for one singular player? The argument could be made for that. But considering we're shoving it to a 2026 for late first. If you think this is a piece that can bring in the chip this year, then I do it. If we don't think this is a piece that is, like I understand for the long-term value, it's great. But in terms of, like, making a move to, like, set yourself up for success this season, if you think this is another piece that could really set you up for the potential of that, then at that point, if you have enough confidence in your roster as it currently stands to make that kind of a declaration, then I think this is a move that we make. Thank you. Javaria sends in a question. Says half PPR, drop Andrews for Kelsey, Warren, Kraft. Yes, and yes. Okay, so if I was going to pick up a tight end out of the group, I'm picking up Tyler Warren for the rest of the season. Thank you. Chris Rosado sends in a question. Says half PPR, Golden or Tillman? I'd honestly rather play Golden, and I'll just 50-50 ball the potential for a touchdown deep down the field. Knicks or Goff? I would rather play... rest of season question, is it? I'd rather have Knicks rest of season. Thank you, Chris Rosado. I appreciate that. If we're talking about this week in specific, though, I'd probably rather play Goff. Smitty sends in a question. Says in a half PPR, I need one between Quentin Johnston, Downs, Dobbs, and Io Manor. Of the available, give me J.K. Dobbins out of the group. Thank you, Smitty. All right, Shubs sends in a question. Says in a PPR, flex McMillan or Kyron. At that point, give me McMillan. Tight end Ferguson or Jawan Johnson. Let me see where I have them ranked in a full PPR, and I'll let you know right now. As of Thursday's rankings, I had my tight ends currently set up as Ferguson one spot ahead of Jawan Johnson. So Ferguson's my suggestion there. Thank you. Eddie J sends in a question. Says Knicks or Daniel Dimes? I'd rather play Daniel Dimes this week. Seattle or the Colts? Honestly, flip a coin. They're both fantastic options going into this week. As it currently stands, I have Indianapolis at 3 and Seattle as number 4 for my Thursday rankings. I'd probably keep it almost as is. So like that works as, whichever way you want to go about it. Trade Kyron for Genty? Yes, give me Genty rest of the season. Again, you got to remember we had Genty significantly higher in the preseason rankings to begin with. He was like our RB 7 or 8 in comparison, or 6. I don't even know where it was, depending on scoring format. In comparison to Kyron, who was at like 11 or 12. So yeah, Genty's still the more valuable player, even after the first 2 weeks of dud performances. Sergio Soto sends out a question. Thank you, Sergio. Says flex pick 1. Debo, Pearsall, Ridley, Swift, Warren. Of the available, Debo 1, Jalen Warren 2 are my immediate, that's who I want to play. The other 3 are irrelevant in comparison to the bunch. I think it becomes a question of formatting. If you're playing in a half PPR, just give me Jalen Warren. If we're playing in a full PPR, give me Debo. Thank you. Alfredo Figueroa sends in a question. Thank you, Freddie. Says, sup, Andrew. In a full PPR, 2 flex spots. We have Dobbs, Ridley, Io Manor, Fannin Jr., and Tillman. Great. Of the available options, I feel most comfortable rolling with Ridley and Dobbs in this circumstance. As for your next question, it says full PPR flex 2 spots, Golden, Ridley, Io Manor, and Njoku. At that point, I would probably go with Ridley alongside of Njoku in a full PPR format. Thank you. And then it says in a full PPR 1 tight end format, Jonnu Smith or Njoku, give me Njoku. Thank you. Tommy Gunn says in a full PPR, Hurts or May this week. Yeah, that is you know what? I think the question or the debate could be had. But I'm going to suggest you play Jalen Hurts. I don't know if I would ever have Jalen Hurts on roster and then just not start him. It's like sitting Saquon, right? Like when we went on with that question earlier. It's against my religion. I have to play my studs, especially when it's Jalen Hurts. So that's kind of the direction I lean in. If you don't want to play Jalen Hurts and you're like, hey, you know what? I'm a Drake May guy now, then you trade Jalen Hurts for a running back at that point. Thank you, Tommy. But why though sends in a question. Says in a full PPR, Stroud or Browning in my super flex. I'd rather play CJ Stroud. They're going to be closely ranked with CJ Stroud against Jacksonville is an advantageous matchup. And Christian Kirk coming back, I think really does help in terms of the long-term value of this offense. And of course, in the short term, what his potential for success can be. Says I have Nico and the Vikings defense, but my opponent has Chase. I'm 0-2. Keon just got me only 5 points. Okay, so I'm trying to understand the rest of this question. I have Nico and the Vikings defense, but opponent has Chase. I understand what you're saying. So you're saying, do you want to try to negate all the points that Jamar Chase could put forward? No, I'd still play CJ Stroud there. Thank you. RZ King sends in a question. Says in a non-PPR starter set, Chubb or Moore. I would rather play, in a non-PPR, considering the format, in a non-PPR, I'd rather play Nick Chubb. And then the next question was Baker or Caleb Williams. I would rather play Caleb Williams. Thank you, RZ King. Keloid sends in a question. Says Jamar Chase, DeAndre Swift for CeeDee Lamb and Chase Brown. Yeah, give me Lamb and Brown. Thank you. Rest of the season, that is the preferred. Eric Nixon sends in a question. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it, my man. Says PPR, Lawrence and Penix with Mariota on waivers. I legitimately would rather have Mariota this week over the bunch. I think Penix could be started, theoretically speaking, because they're taking on the Panthers, and the opportunity to score will be present in a lot of scenarios, but I think the rushing game, stealing value from Penix, is always going to be a threat. I'd rather play Mariota there. Fred sends in a question. Fred says, in a 12-team half PPR, drop Purdy for Trevor Lawrence, Isaiah Likely, or Brashad Smith. My quarterbacks are Dimes, tight end is Zach Ertz. My bench is Tootin, Hendo, JCM, Pearsall, or just stay as put and pray for my team. Okay, so as it currently stands, if Purdy is sitting on your IR spot, then you leave him there. But in the event in which he is not in your IR spot, then, at this point, I'd rather play Dimes this week. So I keep Purdy. Going to the next question, Likely or Brashad Smith. If I was going to roster one of the two, Likely is going to be able to be put in the IR spot. So you can take the advantage of that, while Brashad Smith would have to force you to drop someone, which I don't want to drop anybody off this roster. So I would suggest you keep Brock Purdy on roster, and if you have the opportunity to leave Likely on your IR, you do that. Unholy Trinity sends out a question. Says, would you rather stash Woody Marks, Christian Kirk, or Diami Brown? I don't want Diami Brown at all. Between Woody Marks and Christian Kirk, I'd rather have Christian Kirk because I do think eventually Mixon will come back. As to when, who knows? Rondo sends in a question. Rondo Commando says, Jordan Mason or Judy full PPR flex? Without a doubt in my mind, 1000% of the time I would play Jordan Mason there. Thank you. We move on to a question that comes in from Gucci Han, Louis Han, or AKA Big Reg. What's up? Or Reg. Reg, how's it going? Says my guy in a full PPR. Oh, there goes my YouTube chat. Hold up. Gucci Han, give me a second. Pop out the chat. We're good to go there. I need to just change it to this so I can see your question. Okay, here we are. So you said the following here. You said, and I quote, my guy, in a full PPR, I go with Rodgers or Darnold at quarterback. That's a really good question. And who do I flex between Pitts, Tracy, Renfro, and Wicks? Okay. Quickly, let's see here. Full PPR, I will take Kyle Pitts out of the group of those players. As for Darnold or Rodgers, I think I'd rather... Where do I have them ranked? I have Sam Darnold a couple spots ahead of Rodgers, but now there's no Christian Gonzalez. I think I still play Sam Darnold there against New Orleans. I'll take Darnold. I'll take Pitts. Thank you. Suarez says, rest of season, I've got offered Diggs for Golden. I will take Diggs, legitimately. Abdi sends in a question, says, who do I start in a 14-man full PPR? Start 2, Judy or Quentin Johnston or Franklin. I will honestly, out of the group, I'd feel most comfortable playing in a full PPR. I don't want to play Quentin Johnston, guys. Not against Patrick Surtain. Like, it's so sketch. I mean, I know at any moment the guy could literally just score a touchdown and no one would even blink an eye. And there's a chance that he might go against Riley Moss and Riley Moss gives up the big play. Like, there's always the possibility of that, to which that scares me enough so much to where I would rather just play Franklin and Quentin Johnston and leave Judy on my bench because of the matchup. As for your next question, full PPR, Marvin Harrison, JMO, or Pearsall. Start 2. Give me Marvin Harrison and JMO. In the event in which we have a possibility of which Juwan Jennings does not play on Sunday, you would pivot JMO for Pearsall. Thank you. Rondo Commando sends in a follow-up, says Dylan Sampson or Matthew Golden droppable. Dylan Sampson's more droppable as of right now. Thank you. Because of Quinshon Judkins, of course. SR20 Mar sends in a question, says Mike Evans, Troy Franklin, Terror McMillan. Okay. Also, okay, out of those three, I'd rather play Mike Evans. Number 1, McMillan 2, Franklin 3. Next question, Jordan Mason or Chuba Hubbard? Give me Jordan Mason this week. Thank you. Sean Bonds sends in a question, says start Stafford or Penix. I'd rather play Penix this week. It says, and trade Hampton and Harris for Judkins and Montgomery. Hampton and Najee Harris for Judkins and Montgomery. If you are in need of RB depth, right? Like if you're in need of multiple starters long-term, then I would say sure. Otherwise, I feel like Hampton is the more valuable. He is the most valuable prospect in the entire trade. And if you don't need the depth, I don't go for it. I just hold as is and I wait for him to flourish as a player. Shane Howard sends in a question. Shane, hope you're doing well, my man. Says, hey, Andrew, which defense do I stream? The Hawks or the Colts? Honestly, flip a coin. I've never been the greatest. I'll even admit to it. I've never been the greatest at predicting potential defensive success. Again, a lot of it that I go after is like potential point spreads, potential offensive line play in terms of the defense and their pass rush and the rate at which they find success, whether it is pressure rates, sack rates. Because ultimately what we're trying to do is when we play defense or when we play our fantasy defenses, we want to focus on a couple things. How many points are they going to allow? Because again, you get 10 points to begin with. So you want to make sure your defense doesn't give up very many points. And if they're going to give up points, you want to be able to make sure that you have the possibility of accumulating sacks. Because those are the two most kind of tangible assets that you could kind of bank on. Because interceptions, defensive touchdowns, forced fumbles are impossible to predict objectively. So in this current circumstance, I have the Colts ranked higher. But I don't mind the idea of playing the Hawks. I just think that there's a higher likelihood that Spencer Rattler puts up a good performance than Cam Ward. That's why I prefer the Colts this week. As for your next question, it says start 3 of these wide receivers: Ted McMillan, Pittman, Jay Jets, DK, and Rome. Cool. Of those available, Justin Jefferson, Rome Odunze, DK Metcalf. Thank you. Third sending in a follow-up says, Andrew, this is entirely for comedic relief and to make you laugh. Please advise. Full PPR. I want chicken. I want liver. Okay. All right, I'm not going to read it, brother. I did laugh, though. So it did get the job done. You're having me sing like, what is this? This is a cat commercial? Listen, I do not condone these advertisements for these cat companies or whatever the heck this is. This cat dinner. Thank you, though, Third. I appreciate it. Squanchy sends in a question. It says start two, Pickens, Warren, Pollard. I would rather play Pickens and Warren there. Thank you very much. Dylan Smith says in a PPR 12-man league, flexing Buka or Pickens. I'd prefer to play Pickens this week. Thank you, Dylan. Paul Adams sends in a question. It says pick one, Darnold, Mac Jones, Geno, or Stafford. Give me Mac Jones there. Thank you. Jerome Hill sends in a question. Thank you very much, sir. It says PPR Hawkinson or Fannin. I have Fannin one spot ahead of him. I'm going to lean in that direction as of right now. If you want to play Hawkinson, I have no issue with you doing so. I just think that Fannin can be an easy 10 points. Hawkinson can outproduce him, but I'd rather just go for the baseline points that I can get for sure. Wide receiver Johnston, McLaurin, or Pearsall. I'd rather play McLaurin out of the group. Should I pick up Diggs? If so, who should I drop? I have Ayuk, Rice, and Godwin on the bench. If you were going to drop somebody, I don't think you can drop any of them unless they're in your IR. I mean, like if Ayuk and Godwin are on your team right now, right? And they're not in your IR spots, then I drop Ayuk because he is a long-term, kind of return. Alucard sends in a question. Says another week in Survivor. T. Higgins or Marvin Harrison. I'd rather play Marvin Harrison against the 49ers defense. Thank you. Jonathan Costilas sends in a question. Says in a 10-team PPR, Jordan Mason, Jonathan Taylor, Chase, BTJ, Kraft, Roma Dunze, really good team. Jaden Daniels, ETN, Harvey, Hunter, Quinshon Judkins, Moore, Olave, Warren, Kittle. I need a quarterback. Thinking of trading 2 for 1 to get one or getting quarterback on the wire. Yeah, I think you should probably look to try to get one off the wire with Jaden Daniels out. I'd go pick up Marcus Mariota. In the event in which Marcus Mariota is not available, let me give you some alternative options in terms of players that I would like to play this week that may be potentially available. In the event in which Caleb Williams is available, pick him up, play him. Dak Prescott, pick him up, play him. Daniel Jones, pick him up, play him. Drake May, pick him up, play him. Otherwise, let's go with Marcus Mariota. Thank you. Alrighty, we continue on with a question that comes in from Hank Hennig, who says, hey Andrew, in a full PPR, who do I start as my number 2 running back and my flex play? I have Connor, Mason, Wandell, Pearsall, JCM, Downs to play. Okay, of those available in a full PPR, I am playing Jordan Mason and James Conner. Those are my 2 plays. Thank you. Next question, also drop Baltimore defense or 49ers defense or likely for Kansas City to start. Let me look at the Ravens defense real quick in terms of their schedule. I think that is very much still going to be the determining factor. Okay, when we look at the upcoming schedule for the Ravens, they take on the Detroit Lions on Monday. Then they have the Chiefs. Then they have the Texans. Then they have the Rams. So those are going to be competitive matchups to the point to where, like, I don't know if they're going to be immediately like blind starts. Once we get to October 26th against they take on the Bears, then the following week, the Dolphins, the Vikings, the Browns, the Jets, the Bengals. Then at that point, you want them on roster. So this is my primary suggestion. If you don't plan on playing them this week, maybe you drop them, pick up KC. No, honestly, you could keep it as is. I mean, I'd prefer to play KC by a million. If you wanted to play a defense this week, it would have to be the 49ers against the Cardinals because there's no way I'm playing Baltimore against the Lions. So I don't really want to drop likely outright to roster 3 defenses. So at this point, if you're not playing Baltimore and you're okay playing the 49ers, keep it as is. Otherwise, you drop Baltimore and pick up the Kansas City defense. And then potentially prior to Monday night, make that swap again. You could just, prior to the Monday night game, drop whatever defense you didn't start in order to pick them up. Again, play Connor and Mason. Thank you. Sean Bond sends in a question. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate it, my man. Sean says the following. Was offered London and Tedero McMillan for Neighbors. You'd have to be super desperate at wide receiver in terms of depth to make the trade. I think I'd rather just have Neighbors as of right now. If I have enough wide receiver depth across the board, I'm keeping. CJ Rich sends in a question. Says in a 10-team full PPR, I just traded Dobbins and Montgomery for Mason. Okay, interesting. I don't know. Let's see. For the workload / upside, okay. Now my running backs are Kamara, Swift, Mason. Yeah, look, here's the thing. You are 100% risking the idea. Like, Mason has to be the outright starter at a full capacity rest of the season blind. Fingers crossed that is the case for you, brother, because honestly, like, I'm hoping that is the case for the future of the Vikings. But yeah, as of right now, I don't love it, but I could see the potential. I can see why you made the trade, and I understand it. Omar sends in a question, says, drop Andrews for likely. I have Fannin. Look, as of right now, considering Likely's not going to play on Monday, I don't think it's a wise decision. I'd rather have Mark Andrews on roster because if in fact he goes for a 3-touchdown game, I'd rather he be on roster and then I try to trade him the next week rather than have him on the waiver and have somebody else have the opportunity to pick him up. So as of right now, no, I would not pick up Likely for Andrews unless I could pick up Likely and just put him on my IR spot. No, I'm not interested in that. Appreciate it. We had a question from Alejo, who sends in a question. It says, Tucker or TJ Hawkinson know that Kraft could potentially be on a snap count with a knee injury. I'm going to assume that if, in fact, Tucker Kraft was in any concern of being injured further more than he currently is, that they wouldn't play him because they don't need him to play against the Cleveland Browns. So I'm going to be firing up Tucker Kraft at a full capacity. That's what I would suggest, at least. Wired for Life sends in a question. It says, standard superflex, Nix, Darnold, Trevor Lawrence, or Stevenson in my... Okay, so of those available options, Bo Nix is my starter next to Trevor Lawrence, then it's Darnold after. I wouldn't play Stevenson in comparison to them, so I'm just going to stick with Nix there. Thank you. Joshua Wilkins sends in a question. It says, trade Kyron for Adunze. Overpay, question mark? Lineup a little in previous question. Okay, Joshua, let me see if I can find your lineup, and then I can go ahead and get some context as to what the deal is. So you currently have Mahomes, Genty, Brown, Kyron, Mason, Ladd, T, Higgins, and Sutton and Golden. Okay. To which you were asking a question about, you got offered Ted Earl, McMillan, and JCM for Jordan Mason and Matthew. Okay. So as of right now, if you were to make that trade and you bring in JCM, and then you were theoretically keep Chase Brown, JCM, and then you were trading it Kyron, which you would no longer have. This is a very I think at that point your running back depth becomes so thin that it scares me. I could justify the trade for this singular purpose. If you're playing in a league where you can start 3 wide receivers and 1 flex, or 2 wide receivers and 2 flex, and it's a full PPR, sure. Otherwise, no thank you. Rel7 sends in a question. It says, start 2 quarterbacks, Geno Smith, Mac Jones, Stafford. As of right now, Mac Jones is clear and away one of my starters. My next highest ranked quarterback between Geno and Matthew Stafford. Let's see, where do I have Geno? Geno is at 22, Stafford is at 20. Yeah, I'm going to play Geno against the Washington Commanders, and I'm going to play Mac Jones. Thank you. Let's see here. We had a question that came in from Hey Blick, who says, my running backs are Genty, Kyron, JCM, ETN. Should I bench Kyron Williams this week and start ETN and flex Ridley, Marvin Harrison? I have Flowers and Neighbors. In the event in which you're playing in a full PPR, I play Genty, ETN, and I'm okay playing Marvin in the flex. That's fine by me. True Gentleman for you sends in a question. True Gentleman, long time no see. Hope you're doing well, my man. Says, hey, buddy. Hope everything is going well. Check the chat. All right, True Gentleman. Long time no see. I hope everything's going well for you as well. I mean, geez. It's been a while. All right, let's see what you have to say here, my man. Says, I got offered BTJ for Javonte. I need a number 1 wide receiver. My running backs are Bijan, Chase Brown, and Mason. Yeah, I make the deal. Unless, yeah, I do. I just make the deal. Unless you can get somebody better than BTJ for Javonte. If you can get a Nico Collins, you can get a Drake London. That works for me as well. But in the event in which you cannot, I'm okay with this trade. I have no issue with it at all. I think BTJ is only going to get better. There's no way that a player of his caliber, of his talent level, he's going to be, what he's put up thus far. He's not going to continue that for a long period of time. I am sends it a question. Says, rest of season, Nix, Penix, Jones. As of right now, considering Daniel Jones' rushing upside that he presents, honestly, I don't mind the idea of it being Daniel Jones 1, Nix 2, Penix 3. But as of right now, Bo Nix has a lot to prove. And I think this matchup against this kind of an elite defense this week is going to definitely kind of give us an understanding. Demond Smith sends in a question. Thank you very much, sir. Very generous of you. Says, what's up, bro? Can you rate my starting lineup in a full PPR? We have Trevor Lawrence, Achane, Kyron, CD, T-Mac, Olave, Hampton, Kittle, Aubrey. Do you think Trevor Lawrence can lead me to the chip, or should I trade for a quarterback? I think you should trade for a quarterback. He is a legitimate walking turnover issue, which unfortunately has been the reality of the situation for a while now. And if you have the opportunity to either pick up a quarterback off the waivers, maybe wait for a Brock Purdy to be dropped in your league and then pick him up, or maybe somebody is going to, panic drop Justin Fields, I think you're trying to look for an alternative option. I think that is probably the best plan of action, whether it is a Caleb Williams, whether it is a Drake May, other quarterbacks that have rushing upside similar, but are better in terms of fantasy purposes because they don't turn over the ball at such an incredibly high rate. Skizzy sends in a question, says, how do you feel about Olave or Pickens for this week going forward rest of season? Okay, in regards to this week, I really feel comfortable with the idea of Pickens against that secondary of Chicago that is dealing with all the injuries they are. In an expected high-scoring game, I understand that there may be a little bit of weather concern. I'm not worried about it. So Pickens should be great this week. Olave taking, I mean, again, here's the thing first and foremost. Olave has been targeted incredibly highly, but a lot of the targets that he has seen have been inaccurate. So like Rattler is still doing the job, but he's not doing it at a high enough level to where I'm confident in Olave every week. He is purely just a low end, or he's a high end wide receiver 4 every week. That's what he is. He will range between our wide receiver like 37 to 48, depending on the matchup, depending on the opportunity share, etc. So in terms of the rest of the season, I feel way more comfortable with Pickens because of the quarterback play and because of the touchdown upside that he'll be exposed to. But it's not to say that Olave can't improve. He certainly can, but he also always has that injury kind of risk that kind of, unfortunately, is a clouded. It's like it's a cloud over his head at all times. Ricky Retro sends in a question. Says Ramondre Stevenson or Isaiah Pacheco as my RB2 Superflex full PPR. Got to play Ramondre, 100%. Thank you. Wired for Life sends in a question. Says full PPR start Nix, Jones, T-Law, Penix, Rogers, Mariota. Of the available, I would play Daniel Jones, number 1. Mariota would be number 2. Nix would be 3. Trevor Lawrence would be 4. Penix would be 5. Rogers would be 6. Thank you, Wired for Life. Appreciate it. Okay. I think I've caught up on all those. Appreciate you guys taking your time to come out today and ask those questions. Appreciate it. Again, I also appreciate you guys being patient with that. Again, if I wasn't able to directly answer your question via the live chat, again, I was answering questions via the super chats because, again, with that sent in, they take priority. I do appreciate you guys, of course, supporting the channel over the course of the last hour and a half as we've been live streaming here on the channel. Really quickly, I'm going to go ahead and put together a couple plays or share a couple plays because I did see many of you guys in the live chat as I was continuing to ask questions in regards to what plays I want to go ahead and put together via Betr this weekend. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that up on screen. There have been a couple plays that I like and I've gone ahead and constructed. Potentially, this could be something that if you guys are interested in, you could potentially, let's see here. Let me get all this off my screen. Okay. Yeah, if these are plays that are potentially something that interests you, then again, you could potentially go about making these plays via Betr. Again, like I've mentioned before, if you guys want my all-encompassing rankings every single Sunday morning for the remainder of the season, you can check out Betr. There's a link down in the description. If you are eligible based on your current location, of course, not only can you get a free $10 when you sign up, but when you sign up, make that first time deposit minimum of $10 and then make a real cash play within one of the $10 that you deposited. So you just have to make a $1 minimum play within the one of the $10 you deposited. You'll be on my email list to receive up-to-date rankings every single Sunday morning for the remainder of the season for that weekly rank. So again, that's half PPR, full PPR, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, kicker, defense, and flex. So all-encompassing rankings to help you guys out. So in the meanwhile, let's go ahead and let me travel on over and let me share some of the plays that I was making. That's not how I wanted to go about it. Let's throw that up on screen. There it is. So in regards to some of the plays that I was making this weekend, or at least for this weekend, that I shared in the most recent live streams and or videos. Really quickly, let's just go ahead. Let's throw this up on screen. So some of the more recent ones in regards to this weekend. First and foremost, let's see here. McMillan, more than 3.5 receptions. Nico Collins, more than 4.5 receptions. Alvin Kamara, more than 3.5 receptions. Again, Kamara has done it in 12 of the last 13. Nico Collins is going to wake up because he plays the Jaguars. And Tedero McMillan has an opportunity of taking on a Falcons defense without AJ Terrell. Then we continue on. We have another play here in which I'm just purely banking on the idea of this being a great scoring game, to which I have Dak Prescott and Caleb Williams both throwing for more than 1.5 passing touchdowns. And then we have Adunze and Jake Ferguson surpassing their reception total. So $10 for 32.5. In regards to some of these other plays, this is just basically for the Hidden Gems episode yesterday. In regards to some of these players, this is a $2 play for 24. So it's a 12x on Hawkinson getting more on his receptions, Wicks going more than his 40.5 receiving yards, Pacheco more than 38.5 rushing yards, and Stevenson more than 49.5 rushing yards. So again, another one of these plays. And then the final play in which I made was $10. This is just like a completely crazy, you never know, right? I talk about George Pickens and Jameson Williams all the time every week on Sunday mornings as guys like, hey, it only takes one play for them to make a relevant week in fantasy. So I took both of them with Tyler Warren for a potential anytime touchdown trio. Now, again, if you wanted to potentially make some plays going into this upcoming weekend, again, I suggested another play in the Hidden Gems episode that I didn't put an entry in as of yet. In regards to like Josh Jacobs, again, he's scored a rushing touchdown in 10 of the last 10 games he's played, right? One rushing touchdown minimum. So like he's always associated with a pretty good odds to score. But in regards to some of these other players, like again, when we talk about the potential of even this game in general, if we go to like receptions, what does Tucker Kraft look like right now? They don't even have Tucker Kraft here because they're not 100% certain that he's going to play. But You could take some of these alternative options, like even Wicks at 1.5, Dobbs at 1.5, these Fannin at 2.5. These are still good numbers. But yeah, just wanted to go ahead and share some of those plays that I went ahead and put together. I'll go ahead and continue on answering some of these questions that are in the live stream chat before we close out today's live stream. Thank you. Appreciate it, guys. All right, we continue on with a question that comes in from Jonathan, who says, ETN and more /Hunter/Olave, what names can I get? Theoretically, if you were going to trade ETN and one of those three receivers, okay, obviously I think DJ Moore has the most firepower in terms of name. If you were going to position yourself, let me go back to your previous question just to like remind myself what you wanted in general. Let's see. So you were saying need a quarterback, thinking of trading 2 for 1 to get a quarterback, to which I suggested, you have ETN. Look, are we talking about here, Jonathan, if you can, let me know in the live stream chat. Are you talking about trading these players for a quarterback? That's what I would like to know. The Recovery 716 says, what's up, Drew? Montgomery or Bill this week? I'd rather play Bill. Cowboys 955 says, a question says, would you drop Zach Ertz or Harold Fannin for Isaiah Likely? No, I wouldn't. If you have an open IR spot, sure, but otherwise, no. Smooth Criminal Entertainment, says, trade Henderson and Tyler Warren for Rice and Ollie Gordon. No, I'm okay. Look, here's the thing. Rashee Rice is so much further into the future. You have to wait till week 7. So that means in week 3, 4, 5, 6. The next 4 weeks, you have to make sure you go 500 minimum. And sending away those players and bringing those in return, I don't know if you can guarantee that. Depends on what the rest of your roster looks like. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Miles Morris in the chat says, rate this trade. I got Cook and JCM, and I traded Chase, Kyron, and Sutton. I don't think I like that. You traded away Chase as in Jamar Chase? Is that what we're talking about? Or Chase Brown? Because that makes a huge... If you move Jamar Chase, I'm going to say I don't like that too much. Because I still think Jamar Chase is going to be solid. Okay, we had Drewski _15 says, questions in the chat. Thank you, Drewski. Says, Drew, I appreciate you. In a 12-team full PPR, I lost Burrow. I need a streamer this week with the highest upside between Rodgers, Mariota, Darnold, Browning, and Mac Jones. I think the order in which I would go about starting these quarterbacks is as such. Number 1 is Mariota. Number 2 is Mac Jones. Number 3 is Browning. Number 4 is Darnold. Number 5 is Rodgers. Also start Sutton or Pollard in the flex. And a full PPR, I would probably lean towards playing Sutton there. Thank you. All right. Para Waiko? I don't even know how to pronounce that name. Para. We're just going to go with Para. Or Pareko. Pareko. That's probably how you pronounce it. I'm an idiot. Trade JSN and Nico Collins and ETN for Puka, BTJ, Olave, and Travion Henderson. No. I don't think I make that. Look, I prefer Puka and BTJ over JSN and Nico, but not by an extreme volume to where I'm making this ETN move. No, I'd keep it as such. It's fine. You don't need to make any moves. Luke says Hollywood or Mario and Hampton. If you're playing in a full PPR, I could justify the Hollywood play because Xavier's out. Rogo says one more. Do I trade Kittle now or later? Thanks. I think, honestly, you trade him now because there's a chance he could come back, and by the time you're waiting for him to do something, there's a possibility in which he gets injured and re-aggravates the hamstring, which would be my worst case scenario. Okay, let me see if I can find the question that was from Jonathan real quick. Where are you at, Jonathan? Jonathan's not in here? All right, I'll wait for that. I just need a space to get waiver quarterback. I want a wide receiver. Okay, so if you were theoretically going to trade for a wide receiver with the options that you currently have on roster with ETN, Moore, Hunter, Olave, the wide receivers that I would suggest you going after is as such. BTJ, Nico, London, first and foremost, need to be the 3 that you try to go after first. If Jamar Chase manager's panicking, please and thank you. If Justin Jefferson manager's panicking because of the quarterback switch, please and thank you. Outside of that, I'd be very much so interested in the possibility of even going after... At that point, it would be 2 for 1s. And there's a lot of names out here that just... They're not worth the 2 for 1 exchange. So those are the ones that I'd go after to begin with. If we can't establish any of those, then the discussion could be had to go after like a Devontae Adams, a Mike Evans, a Garrett Wilson. I mean, yeah, That would be the way. Otherwise, there's no way. I don't think anybody's giving away Jackson Smith or Deebo Samuel at the moment. If they are, though, Zay Flowers. If they are, though, please and thank you. All right. Appreciate it. Continuing on, the beer guy sends in a question. Says, would you trade Justin Jefferson for McLaurin and Pickens? No. I would rather keep Justin Jefferson. I'm not too worried about it. He'll be fine. Mahomes or Goff? Says Sergio. I'd rather play Mahomes this week. Thanks, man. Toe Jams, what's up, man? Says in a half PPR drop Io Manor for Manungai. I have Swift, but spent 15 fag on Io Manor. I don't think the injury to Swift is significant enough to where we need to be picking up Manungai. So I think you're fine. Start Jordan Mason or Rome Odunze. Depends on scoring format. If we're talking about a full PPR, I'll just take Rome. If we're talking about a half or standard, give me Jordan Mason. Thanks, man. MNASty or M Nasty is probably what your name is. Says, thanks for what you do in a full PPR. In both leagues, I need 2 flex options. We have JCM, Quentin Johnston, Booty, Judkins. Okay. And okay, so between those 4, first and foremost, I'd feel most comfortable playing JCM and Quinshon Judkins. No. JCM and Quentin Johnston, not Judkins. Judkins and Booty, not really interested in. As for your other 2 options of this next team, it says I need to flex between JCM, Wandale Robinson, Fanning, Golden. In the event in which his second league is a full PPR, I just play Wandale Robinson there. Thank you. PC says, PC, ask your question. What happened to PC? I thought I answered PC's question earlier. Do you have another one, PC? AAA says Ramondre or Sutton in a half PPR. I'd rather play Ramondre there this week. Traded Tyreek Hill for BTJ. What do you think? I think that's highway robbery. I think that's a complete steal, and I think congratulations. It's as good as it gets, my man. Nathan Salazar says trade Chase Brown and Jalen Hurts for Walker and Hall, full PPR, and Herbert is my other quarterback. Do you have Charbonnet? If so, I'm okay with that deal. I have no problem with it. Toby Carl says, hey, Andrew, in a half PPR, which 3 should I start between Devontae Adams, McMillan, Evans, Neighbors, and Odunze? Yeah, tomorrow morning's rankings will have that on screen. But just to like preemptively give you the heads up, Neighbors, Odunze, and Adams will probably be the 3 highest of the group there, Toby. Thanks, man. Aiden B says, questions in the chat. Appreciate you. He says, I have Jordan Love, JSN, BTJ, Gibbs. Okay, we have some very interesting names here, my man. Jesus. Gibbs, Kyron, Javonte, Ertz. Benches Judkins, Olave, Devontae Smith, David Njoku, Pacheco, and Stroud. Looking for an upgraded RB2 for Kyron. Thoughts on a trade? Yeah, if you can go ahead and move him for Genti, that would be the best case scenario. In the event in which you're not able to potentially accomplish something of that exchange, as a 1-for-1, maybe you can go ahead and find a 2-for-2 trade in which there's a possibility, but that's kind of who I want. In the event in which I cannot get a Genti, a Hampton, a Hall, those are the guys that I kind of want to go trade for buy low as of right now. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, guys. So really quickly, how long have we been live here for? Let me just confirm. Been live for about 1 hour and 53. So in about 7 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and close it out, and I'll be back tomorrow morning starting at 7 a.m. PST. Again, a reminder, if you guys want to get my Sunday morning rankings sent from my email directly to yours, make sure to complete all the Betr sign up instructions that are down in the description of the video prior to tomorrow morning's live stream so I can send out those rankings. Again, if that's something that's not of interest or you're not eligible based on your current location, you can always check out the Patreon. We have rankings posted there every Thursday and Sunday morning. So if you guys are interested in sending your lineups, the Patreon is a way in which you can accomplish that. You can also ask me any and all fantasy football related questions. So whether it is on the live stream or whether it is, outside of those live streams, you can send me over a message via the Patreon messaging system in which you can ask me trade questions, waiver wire questions, all that kind of jazz in order to help you guys out. Additionally, you'll get access to the Patreon only Discord server. Besides the Patreon Discord server access, you can send me messages via Discord because I'll go ahead and add you. And you can send me screenshots of your team so we can help you settle all the questions you may have. So again, all that available down in the description for more information regarding the Patreon and of course the Betr sign up. Thank you. Okay, we had a question that came in from Blazed who says, would you trade J.K. Dobbins and Daniel Jones for Jacoby Myers? I have picked up Daniel Jones off of the waivers, and my team consists of Baker, JT, Genti, Lamb, Evans, JCM, Wandale Robinson, Golden, Diggs, and Downs. I feel like you should be getting more for the contributions of that trade. Like, I don't think it's an equivalent trade. I think you are objectively just giving more than you should. That's how I feel. Mainly because Dobbins has not shown anything but success this year. And Daniel Jones has been, and he's been a top 4 quarterback for fantasy, right? So I understand it's only 2 weeks of information, but in comparison to the rest of your receiving field, like Lamb and Evans are going to be your guys going forward. Wandell looks great. Diggs is going to get more work come week 5 and on. Like, I don't know if this is a necessity to make to where you're giving away this kind of level of like return, to where you're also assassinating like a little bit of your running back. I feel like if you can get a better receiver, sure. If it's a full PPR, you can get a better receiver, sure. If not, and you're like, Andrew, I'm just trying to get out from underneath J.K. Dobbins before Harvey takes over or something like that, okay, I get it. But I don't love the idea because I feel like I should get more for that contribution. Maybe if you're playing in a smaller league, like it's 8 teams and everybody's got an all-star roster and it's hard to make trades already, then fine. All right, Maddie says, hey, Andrew, could you please pick one wide receiver and one flex in a full PPR between Pickens, Marvin, BTJ Pearsall, and Juwan Johnson? Thanks, brother. Yeah, I mean, look, as of right now, looking at the squad that you have available to you, BTJ has to play. And I think, honestly, it has to either be Marv or Pickens, to which I probably lean towards playing Pickens there. Thank you. Juju says, hey, man, I'm in a PPR, Bill or Judkins? I'd rather play Bill. Miriam says, talk Sam Darnold, JSN to me. JSN's a monster, okay? That's all I need to say. Debo or Tyler Warren, PPR, flex spot. Honestly, I'd probably lean towards playing Debo there. Too many designed opportunities for him. Sergio Rio sends in a question, probably one of the final questions of this afternoon. Thank you, Sergio. I appreciate it, my man. It says quarterback, let's close this out. It says quarterback, Mahomes, Goff. Okay, cool. So we'll play Mahomes there this week. It says running backs, Genty, Kyron, Omarion Hampton, Scadaboo, Judkins. Okay, so as of this week, we're playing Genty and Kyron. As for your wide receivers, says Ladd, Pearsall, Hollywood, Cup, Quentin Johnston. So we'll play Ladd McConkey alongside of most likely of the available best. I'd probably go with Hollywood. And then tight ends, Hawkinson, Loveland. So we play Hawkinson there. Says thoughts on thoughts on this team rest of the season. They've all been allergic to touchdowns. Yeah, thus far they have. But hopefully they'll pop a Zyrtec and they'll be good to go, or maybe an EpiPen shot, and then they'll score some tutties for you. In regards to the potential of this roster going forward, I like the running backs. Don't get me wrong, I like it a lot. Your running backs are stacked in my mind. Mahomes has played incredibly well. Tight end is a disappointment, and quite frankly, so has wide receiver been. So as of right now, potentially trying to make a trade in which you're shipping away Quentin Johnston is the best available option, to which you can maybe go and buy low on some alternative options at wide receiver. When I say alternative options, I'd like to go try to buy low on a DK Metcalf or Mike Evans, if possible, feasibly. But as for the team, like running back is so strong that eventually that's going to be also a trading piece. Like Scadaboo, Judkins are going to be guys that you should probably be looking to also pivot off of and ship off, because I want to keep Genty, Kyron, and Omari on the rest of the season. Thank you. Swift or Hampton? I'd rather play Swift this week. Lorenzo, what's up, my man? Ebbs and Flows, what's up? Again, for those of you who are just joining us on this wonderful Saturday afternoon, this is pretty much the end of today's live stream. I'm going to be closing out here in just a moment. Again, I'll be back tomorrow morning starting at 7 a.m. PST. As you guys know, every single Sunday morning, I live stream from 7 to 10 a.m. minimum. So I have updated rankings on screen for the 5 or 6 primary positions. So I will have my top 16 quarterback and tight end rankings, top 36 running back and wide receivers, top 12 kickers and defenses on screen, available, ready to go. But again, if you guys want those all-encompassing rankings, Patreon and or Betr is a way in which you can accomplish that. I appreciate y'all. Let's see here. Am I flexing Ibuka? I have Keenan Allen, Hampton, and Judkins on the bench. I'd rather play Keenan Allen, especially if it's a full PPR. Smooth Criminal says, trade Nico, Henderson, Tyler Warren for Mike Evans, Rice, Hampton, Ollie Gordon. Yeah, I'll take that trade. That's fine by me now. I'm okay with that now. Give me the Mike Evans side. Thank you. Thoughts on Judkins versus Scadaboo in a half PPR? I think both of them have hilariously difficult matchups. If I was going to trust in one of the two, I would probably lean towards playing Scadaboo, because I don't really think Judkins, that run stop defense for the Green Bay Packers is no joke. They completely cleaned house in the first 2 weeks, and they'll probably continue to do so this week. Rob Castle sends in a question, says, I need one. Kayshawn, Judy, Golden, Mooney. Of the group, highest ranked. Oh, you're going standard format too? Yuck, man. I really don't like any of these players. I hate the idea of having to suggest any of them because you're really just trying to rely upon a touchdown to kind of make the week of one of these players, to which it becomes so much more difficult to predict the nature of those touchdowns. I think it's probably in your best interest just to play Judy. I think you could go after Matthew Golden and hope he catches a 50-yard bomb, which is very much so possible. Which honestly, I feel like is the best play, but Judy's probably the safest. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all. That's going to be it for me today. I'm going to cue my double helix. I'll be back tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. sharp. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Saturday afternoon and night. And until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace. Okay, Travis, I see that you sent in a question as I was ending the live stream. My camera's already off, so I'm not even turning it back on anymore. So, Travis says, would you trade Rome, Pickens / Mason for Bijan and Chase Brown? I would. Absolutely, I would. It's not even a question. That is in my roster immediately. So, yeah, give me Bijan, give me Chase Brown, run to the hills, brother, because that is a steal of a trade that I would love to make. Okay, have a great rest of your day, guys. Thank you. Peace.